Chapter 11 Unusual Change. Zhang Xiaofan looked at the bead for a long while, his breathing gradually slowed. But other than the faded color of the bead, he couldn't tell any other differences and so placed it back in his clothes. He looked at Tian Linger beside, she was still unconscious but her complexion looked better. He took up the amber scarlet silk, carefully examined, this was the first time he was so near to the weapon. He felt the softness of it, very comfortable and recalled Tian Linger's beautiful silhouette while flying and felt envious of her. After a while, he imitated Tian Linger and gestured in the air, up. The silk, like a dead snake, did not move. Gg, that grey monkey was clutching its stomach, fell lying on the ground, laughing ceaselessly. Zhang Xiaofan glared at it but after experiencing calamity with the monkey, he felt certain closeness to it, the enmity before that was also all gone. He stuck out his tongue and made funny faces at the monkey, ignoring it, placed the silk beside Tian Linger and looked across at that lake in the empty space. It was a small lake, not very wide, the water source unable to tell, most likely it was formed by underground spring water. The water was jade green, from his view he couldn't tell the depth, on the west side of the lake there was an opening, water poured from there, forming a tiny stream, winding away. In the middle of the lake, there was a pile of rocks, big and small, each different shape, parts of it seen above the waterline. In the middle of the pile, a black short stick was stuck tilted, about 1 kai above the water, the rest submerged, the stick was black, couldn't tell what it was made of and it looked ugly. Zhang Xiaofan did not take much notice of it, only felt the place was odd and wanted to leave as soon as he could but Tian Linger was still unconscious and she refused to wake up no matter how he called her. In comparison, that monkey was up and alert, touched its ears and leaned on its cheeks, scratched itself and played by itself, not a moment settled, in between it even scurried into the forest, grabbed a few fruits from somewhere, threw 2 to Zhang Xiaofan and then sat on the ground and ate with gusto. Zhang Xiaofan took one and bit, it was sweet with succulent, stimulated his appetite. He had went up the mountain since dawn, and until now it was almost noon, he had not even drank a sip of water and was long famished. He finished the fruit with 2-3 bites and was about to take the other one when he suddenly shook his head and placed it beside Tian Linger. He felt better after eating the fruit and he became much more alert too. He stood up and stretched, looked around and saw that the ancient woods and little stream, the scenery was rather beautiful, who would have guessed it would be this odd. And at this moment, Zhang Xiaofan suddenly felt his chest warm, and heard ka, muffled sounds, as if something was cracking. He got a shock and quickly took out that bead. The entire bead was glowing brightly, the dark green energy in it was like wolf or tiger, trying its might to break out from the bead, and the Buddhism symbol that obstructed it was turning weaker and dimmer, looked as it would soon fail. How would Zhang Xiaofan know? This ordinary-looking bead was actually the world-renowned ominous item, sinister orb. The orb origin was unknown but it had a strange ability, devoured living things' blood. If any living thing came near it, the next moment it would be sucked dry by this orb and die, leaving only a skin of skeleton. It was really a horrible evil item. Many thousand years ago, this bead was obtained by the evil sect Elder Blackheart. Because of its ability he smelted it into a weapon and at that time, swept away all obstacles and had massacred innumerable good faction members, became famous and then became one of the 4 treasures of evil sect. After his death, the bead went missing. Tianyan Temple Puji by chance, 30 years ago found this bead at the big marsh in the west. At that time within a radius of 10 miles, white bones were found everywhere, not a single living thing. The people were plunged into an abyss of misery, resentment charging up into the sky. Puji's compassionate heart was moved, with Buddhism great powers subdued it. And from then on, day and night used Buddhism's secret skill of subduing evil on it, suppressing the evil power, never once stopped for 30 years and strung it with his Buddhism treasure, Jade meditation bead, used its clean and tranquil energy to obstruct the sinister orb's evil intentions, finally suppressed this evil spirit and contained it tightly within the bead, unable to see the light of the day under the layers of Buddhism power. However, unexpectedly in the grass temple battle, Puji was heavily wounded by the mysterious black attire person. Almost at his end, although the person fled with injuries but Puji knew the injuries were not deep and was determined to get the sinister orb, therefore he took the 3 days must die pill in order to extend his life by 3 days. With such thoughts, he handed the orb to Zhang Xiaofan and instructed him not to show it to anyone, and threw it down a deep valley when he had the chance. Although it could still harm the innocents but it was better than in the hands of the evildoer. But Puji never expected because of gratitude, Zhang Xiaofan kept the ominous object as keepsake. This sinister orb, without Puji's Buddhism power to suppress it or the jade meditation bead energy, the evil spirit was gradually breaking out of its confines. Tianyan Temple's subdue devil great power was not idle too, although the constraints lost their master, but it still continued to guard loyally for the next 3 years. Just that over time, it eventually could no longer suppress it, and today, seemed like this sinister orb was going to break out of its confines and bring trouble to the world. Zhang Xiaofan although was unaware of all of these, but he felt something was amiss. During the Grass Temple village battle between Puji and that person, the Buddhism symbol one appeared many times, although he was very young at that time, but he remembered it clearly. Right now he saw that the situation on the bead was becoming more urgent, his heart felt anxious, his mind made up, he clutched the bead tightly, stimulated his rudimentary, great Brahman wisdom, into the bead. Both were from the same origin, the one character indeed brightened much, but before Zhang Xiaofan could smile, it instantly dimmed. At the same time, a cold feeling seeped into his body, half of his body immediately felt numb. The grey monkey beside saw Zhang Xiaofan in agony, dark green energy on his face, Ji shouted and was in anxiety. But Zhang Xiaofan naturally couldn't care much, he only felt his entire body blood essence was flowing backwards, towards the direction of the bead in his right hand. And the great Brahman wisdom in his body collapsed upon touch, was totally not that icy energy's match. Right now his entire body vital channels were convulsing, unable to describe in words. He could not take it anymore, staggered and stepped back. Suddenly his body shook again, a familiar nauseous feeling surged again, into his 5 organs. He had inadvertently entered into that empty ground again, but this time, he no longer had that warm energy to protect him. That grey monkey panicked, Ji shouted non-stop, but it dared not step into that area again. Zhang Xiaofan was at a loss at what to do. He felt hot a moment and cold the other, like thousands of ants biting him, felt like throwing up, but there was nothing to vomit, dying was better. His consciousness was gradually blurring, he staggered forward but did not know he was walking in the wrong direction, he only felt his entire body strength was gradually disappearing. His entire body quivering, his limbs without strength, his legs weakened and he collapsed onto the ground. Right now he was already at the lakeside, using his last bit of mental strength, he summoned Taiji Zan Qingwei, managed to take some heaven and earth energy into his body and transforming it into great Brahman wisdom, although it gave him some relief, but the next moment, it was gone. Zhang Xiaofan couldn't care much, struggled to cast the spells even for temporarily. However, that icy energy was really too strong, and with the strange nauseous feeling, almost flipped his internal organs over, straight to his head. His vision spun and his breathing in chaos. Suddenly his throat felt something sweet, wah, a sound, and a huge mouthful of blood spat out, almost fainted. And at this moment, a muffled sound, in that instant, the entire sky darkened, the sinister orb burst out in bright light, the entire bead glowered, a dimmed golden light flashed past, the one character was completely shattered. Zhang Xiaofan's body was immediately enveloped by the dark green energy, like a blood-sucking demon, once again reborn. But the strange events had not ended. Almost the same time the dark energy gained freedom, a loud sound came from within the lake. Immediately the wind started and clouds surged forward, the piles of rocks explode outwards, making loud sounds. Waves started in the lake, spinning around the center, forming a huge vortex. And in the middle of the vortex, the waves formed to cover the gap, an object slowly surfaced, dark energy soared, it was that black short stick, 2 kai long, not gold nor metal, an ominous energy, assaulted over. Zhang Xiaofan shouted out, fell back, that sinister orb was stuck to his palm, he was unable to shake it off, he could indistinctly see, faint color of blood was seeping into that orb. A loud whistle, within the waves, the black stick suddenly shot out, towards that sinister orb, and then the next moment, a loud bang, the 2 ominous objects collided. Zhang Xiaofan received a great shock, flew up almost 1 zhang high, the empty ground below him, turned into a huge pit because of the impact. Zhang Xiaofan fell onto the ground, blood flowed from his face's 7 apertures, his head spun and his vision blurred, but the pain in his body seemed to subside a little. He only saw a blanket of red before his eyes, but it was because blood was flowing from his eyes. He quickly used his hands to wipe but saw that the strange black stick was stuck on top of the orb, dark energy like threads went forward to attack. The sinister orb seemed to be alive, knew that it was its foe, gathered all of its dark green energy to resist. Both sides seemed to be equal, and the icy feeling in Zhang Xiaofan and the nauseous feeling instead retreated. Zhang Xiaofan panted heavily, his mind was still in a mess, he subconsciously flung his hand, but the 2 strange objects, as if part of his body, remained stuck there and continued to fight. Zhang Xiaofan was scared and wanted to be as far away from these two objects. He struggled to stand up, but before he could take a step, his head felt dizzy and his body wavered, his legs had no strength and he again fell down onto the ground. The two energies from the bead and the stick entwined and the dark energy soared, it seemed to be winning. And the next moment, the dark energy infiltrated in strongly, the dark green light receded, seemed unable to defend. At this moment, Zhang Xiaofan felt a sharp pain in his palm, he looked down and his heart almost jumped out. Around the bead, blood poured out from his palm unceasingly, gradually forming a big blood drop. Zhang Xiaofan shook, his face turned pale, the bead soaked in the blood and immediately its light brightened, retaliated back strongly, not only turning the situation around but also gradually suppressed the dark energy. As the blood from his palm continued to pour out, Zhang Xiaofan became to lose his consciousness. The blood flowed up and soon reached where the stick and the bead was joined and it stopped. The stick and the orb energies continued to fight, and the blood seeped in, gradually dyeing red the area where the stick and the bead touched each other. A faint stench of blood wafted in the air. And as time passed, the red color turned darker, and until the end, glistening brightly, but for some reason, the energies started to dim, from the initial look of fight, to being joined. And not knowing for how long, this strange evolution finally reached the end, the dark stick and dark green bead had totally lost their brilliancy, with a cough fell from Zhang Xiaofan's hand and onto the ground. Xiaofan, Xiaofan, little junior brother, an urgent call, reverberated around his ears. His mind in a jumble, felt his head was in an extreme pain, almost took all of his strength to open his eyes. Tian Linger's anxious and panicked face, slowly formed before him, he moved his lips and called out, "Senior sister." Tian Linger was delighted, said, "Xiaofan, are you awake?" Zhang Xiaofan forced a smile, said, "I am all right, senior sister." Tian Linger helped him to sit up. Zhang Xiaofan immediately looked at his palm, but his palm looked normal, other than pale color, there was nothing strange. He was stunned and clearly remembered blood was pouring out from his palm, why was there not even a scar left? Could it be this was all a nightmare? Xiaofan. Tian Linger saw that he was in a daze, felt worried and pushed him a little. Zhang Xiaofan startled, was about to tell her but did not know where to start, he too felt it was too weird and he himself was also in doubt, paused and eventually said, "Nothing, nothing much, senior sister." Tian Linger was relieved. After she woke up, she saw that the sky had turned dark, she was lying under a big pine tree but her junior brother was instead lying far on the empty ground, unconscious. Feeling afraid, she quickly ran to Zhang Xiaofan and managed to wake him. Tian Linger looked around, said to Zhang Xiaofan, "Junior brother, this place is too weird, we better leave fast, tomorrow I will ask my mother to come take a look and let's talk again then." Zhang Xiaofan nodded, was about to stand up but suddenly felt his entire body in pain, his head spinning, if not for Tian Linger supporting him, he almost fell again. Tian Linger saw his pale was very pale, was really worried about him and supported him up. Zhang Xiaofan composed himself, examined himself but did not see any wounds, said, "Senior sister, I only feel a little dizzy, it's nothing serious." Tian Linger examined him and saw it was so, nodded and said, "Then let's quickly go back, it's dark already, father and mother and the other senior brothers would be worried." Zhang Xiaofan said, "Yes." Tian Linger took a deep breath, checked herself and mumbled why did she faint for no reason. And gestured, red light flashed, amber scarlet silk with a ooze, appeared. Tian Linger was about to bring Zhang Xiaofan up when suddenly, "Gg," a sound, both of them turned around, it was that monkey who had suddenly appeared, grinned and holding a dark, 1 kai long, stick. Before the observed silence hall, Tian Buyi paced, his brows frowning, anxiety on his face. His daughter had went up the mountain with that good-for-nothing 7th disciple and until now there was no sight of them. Suru had long went to search and now the other disciples were also dispatched out to search but there was no sign of them at Big Bamboo Valley, the surroundings were all undulating mountains, dense forest, looking for them was like finding a needle in the sea. While he was worrying, the sound of wind was heard, he looked up, it was Suru who had brought the two imps back. As he saw that both of them looked fine, and a monkey on Zhang Xiaofan's shoulder. Tian Buyi then felt relieved but the anger on his face did not recede. Zhang Xiaofan took 2 glances at his teacher, did not dare to move and lowered his head, but that monkey was mischievous, kept touching his head, as if looking for fleas. Tian Linger kept the silk away, saw her father's angry face, her eyes turned a few times, smiling like a flower, extremely adorable, skipped to her father and pulled his hand, "Father, we are back." Tian Buyi humphed, said, "Where did you go?" Tian Linger smiled and said, "Xiaofan was bullied by a monkey while chopping bamboo. I went to help catch it. Oh, it's that monkey." After speaking, she pointed towards Zhang Xiaofan. The monkey was startled, at her twice, looking angry, and then scratched its head, again put its attention back to Zhang Xiaofan's head. Tian Linger made a funny face at it, and briefly told them about the pursue incident, and until the valley, I suddenly felt nauseous and for some reason, fainted, and when I woke up, Xiaofan was also on the ground, unconscious. However, fortunately we were not injured, and when we were about to come back, I saw that the monkey seemed attached to Xiaofan and so brought it back too. Tian Buyi frowned, turned to his wife and said, "What happened?" Suru shook her head. "When I found them at the rear mountain, I went down to investigate but found nothing strange. I guessed most likely Linger's cultivation is still weak, and still brought Xiaofan on her amber scarlet silk, in the end became overexhausted." Tian Linger pouted and said, "Mother, what are you talking about? How would my cultivation be weak?" "Xiaofan, right?" Zhang Xiaofan hurriedly said, "Yes, yes, yes." Tian Buyi rolled his eyes at Zhang Xiaofan, coldly said, "As Qing Yun disciple, you are actually bullied by a monkey. If this gets out, my face would be totally thrown by you." Zhang Xiaofan turned red, did not dare to reply, continued to lower his head. Suru went over, pulled Tian Linger's hand, gently said, "Didn't eat for the whole day, must be hungry, right?" Tian Linger stuck out her tongue, smiled and said, "I'm famished, mother." Suru cast a glance at her, pulling her towards the kitchen while saying, "Young age yet so mischievous." Zhang Xiaofan also felt famished, but before Tian Buyi, he dared not move. As Suru and Tian Linger went further, there was no sound from his teacher. He sneaked a glance, there was nobody in front of him. Tian Buyi had left, and most likely he would feel that it's a waste of energy to even scold this idiot disciple. Zhang Xiaofan, for a moment at a loss, stood for a long while until his stomach rumbled. He then turned and walked unwillingly to his room. When he was back, he closed the door. The monkey, with a jeet sound, as if it knew this was home, leapt down and scurried up to his bed, jumped up and down and flung his pillows around, extremely happy. Zhang Xiaofan looked at the monkey, a smile also revealed on his lips, but immediately was reminded of his hunger. He sat down beside the table, poured out the cold water from the day before from the flask and drank. A cold sensation, straight to his heart. He sat dazed for a while, took out an object from his bosom. It was that ugly-looking stick. The bead that Puji had given him was now tightly joined with the unknown stick. Even its color was also dark green and black, and the part where the objects joined, it was dark red, like blood clot, not only ugly but also a little disgusting. He looked at it for a long while, suddenly with a bitter laugh, flung it at the wall. The stick hit the wall and dropped, rolled to a corner. The monkey was startled, looked up at Zhang Xiaofan, not knowing why he was angry. Zhang Xiaofan sighed, removed his shoes and went up his bed, covered his head with the blanket and slept. The monkey scratched its head, puzzled. This night, Zhang Xiaofan tossed and turned, his hunger unbearable, until late night, where he managed to doze off. Chapter 12 Reunited. After returning from the secluded valley, another 6 months passed. Zhang Xiaofan had already been in Qing Yun sect for a total of 3 years. At the same time, his career of chopping bamboo had also came to an end, just that the results he had shown before he ended it, made himself turned red too. Because of that strange trip to the secluded valley, in the next 6 months, Zhang Xiaofan frequently felt dizzy and tired easily. He pondered it himself and guessed it could be because he had coughed up a big pool of cool on that day. But he checked himself and did not find any wound. He felt uneasy but did not dare to approach his teacher and so kept it in his heart. Though he did not say, but his body showed. In his past duties, he could at least chop 2 big bamboos. Now he was already panting with just a few chops and had cold sweat. For half a day he could not even chop down one. Actually, this was not strange too. That day at the valley, sinister orb almost sucked half of his body's blood. If it was not because his body had been sturdy all along, he might even bedridden. But for him to resume his strength in chopping bamboo as before, that would be far-fetched. The situation continued, until after 6 months he felt his body had improved slightly and his energy better. However, his bamboo homework also ended at this time. At the last day, before his senior brothers who had came to inspect his achievements, Zhang Xiaofan exhausted all of his strength and in the end only managed to chop one. Song Darren and the rest looked at each other, speechless. Only Tian Linger came forward, smiled and patted his shoulder. "Xiaofan, it's all right, you have 1/10 of your senior sister, me, ability, it is already considered not bad." Single quote. Zhang Xiaofan forced a smile. At dinner time, the Big Bamboo Valley members sat around in the dining hall. After Tian Buyi couple sat down, Song Darren reported Zhang Xiaofan's progress first. Tian Buyi sneered and did not even look at Zhang Xiaofan, instead it was Suru who smiled and said, "Ah, Xiaofan, you have already been here with us for 3 years." Zhang Xiaofan hurriedly replied, "Yes, teacher's wife." Suru gently sighed and said, Time passed really fast, a blink and 3 years has gone." After speaking, she suddenly paused, raised her voice and spoke to the other 6 disciples, "Do you all feel this too?" The disciples were startled, quickly sat straight and replied, "Yes." Suru humphed, said, "Now that your junior brother has also grown up, but for the past 3 years, all of you have not progressed at all, do you want to push your teacher and me to our graves?" The rest did not dare to speak but all looked towards Song Darren. Song Darren, urged by the other brothers, picked up the courage and said, "Teacher's wife, please be assured, we will make you proud this time." Suru looked disbelieving, about to speak when Tian Buyi suddenly interrupted, "Lao Lu." Du Bishu immediately became alert, looked up and asked in surprise, "Teacher, you called me?" Tian Buyi indifferently said, "These few days I noticed you making dancing gestures to the pots and pans in the kitchen when you were not busy, what's happening?" Du Bishu turned red, stammered and replied, "Teacher, you how did you see it?" Suru exclaimed, said, "Bishu, what is it?" Du Bishu hesitated for a long while, quietly said, "Disciple wanted to see if those things could be moved." Everyone was shocked. Driving object, realm was Qing Yun sect's magical weapon practice's basic foundation, unimaginable if one did not reach Taiji Zan Qing Wei Jade Realm's 4th level. Tian Buyi nodded, although his face did not reveal anything but his eyes flicked a flash of delight, said, "How is it?" Du Bishu quietly said, seems like it moved a little." Rumble, a hubbub of noise and movements, all pleasantly shocked. Lao Wu, Lu Daxun, hit his shoulder hard, his face all smiles. Suru also smiled widely, said, "Good fellow, didn't expect you to catch up, when did it happen?" Du Bishu felt the infectious energy, also relaxed, said, "Just recently, a few days ago I was training in my room, suddenly realized that under my chanting, the water cup on the table moved a little, I wondered if I have broken through level 3. He laughed a bit embarrassingly, continued, "But disciple is uncertain, did not dare to believe, and so frequently performed a few tries, didn't expect to be found out by teacher." Tian Buyi smiled, "It's like this, Jade Qing Realm's 4th and 3rd level, although the power has a difference of heaven and earth but the initial cultivation will not be obvious. Your character is sharp, although you joined us late but didn't expect that you will catch up." Everyone laughed and each went to congratulate him. Tian Linger also cut in and said, "6th senior brother, then have you decided on your weapon?" Du Bishu was stunned, said, "Have not, I have only just confirmed that I have reached level 4 from teacher, I have not started to think yet." Suru smiled and said, "No hurry, these few days you can take your time to think, but you know your teacher, he has never forced you all to take up the sword, whatever you like, just go and find the materials after you have decided." Zhang Xiaofan sitting beside was full of envy, his 6th senior brother was smiling broadly. Tian Buyi was heard speaking again, "Lao Lu." Du Bishu quickly acknowledged, "Teacher." Tian Buyi said, "Accordingly to our Qing Yun sect old practice, disciples who have reached the 4th level, will have to go down the mountain to gain real experience, at the same time search for good spiritual materials to forge the magical weapon. As for whether you will be able to gather celestial objects with heaven and earth spiritual energy, it will have to depend on your destiny. Get prepared, you will set off in the next few days." Du Bishu was stunned, reluctant shone in his eyes but it also contained some happiness, quietly said, "Yes." After speaking he seemed to recall something, said, "But teacher, disciple has always been preparing the meals, after disciple leave." Lu Daxun beside him laughed and said, "What are you worrying about, they had me before you joined, don't worry, they won't go hungry." Du Bishu and the rest laughed, only Tian Linger said, "5th senior brother, you are not embarrassed to say that, just your dishes and I had nightmares when I was young." Lu Daxun turned red, the rest roared with laughter. After the laughter subsided, Tian Buyi spoke, "Let Lao Qi handle the kitchen from now on." Everyone was surprised. Lu Daxun said in shock, "Teacher, junior brother, he is still young." Tian Buyi glanced sideways at Zhang Xiaofan. Zhang Xiaofan quickly said, "Teacher, please don't worry, I have frequently followed 6th senior brother in the kitchen and assisted, I know how to do it." Tian Buyi nodded, only waved his hand and said, "Eat." After 3 days, Du Bishu packed his bags, handed over the chores and instructions, and left. For 3 years among the disciples, Du Bishu was the youngest and his personality was bubbly. He was closest to Zhang Xiaofan. Now that he had left, Zhang Xiaofan was rather sad and felt lonelier on the Big Bamboo Valley. Following which, Zhang Xiaofan started his second homework at Qingyun sect, cooking. That day was the first time he officially prepared and cooked the meal. He was busy by himself in the kitchen for the whole day, rinsed rice, washed the vegetables, extremely busy and didn't realize that time had passed till noon. Tian Bui and the rest entered the dining hall, saw that the table was set with food like usual. Zhang Xiaofan sat at the tail end, both hands tightly wrapped together. Anyone could see his nervousness. Everyone sat down. Tian Bui did not speak. Suru instead glanced at Zhang Xiaofan, smiled and said, "Xiaofan, how was your first day of cooking?" Zhang Xiaofan opened his mouth but could not think of what to say. Tian Bui snorted and said, "Eat." The rest acknowledged, took up their chopsticks and food, and ate. In the hall, there was a blanket of silence. Zhang Xiaofan was so nervous that his heart could have jumped up to his throat and eyes. Sweat dripped from his forehead. Quietly said, "Teacher, senior brothers, I didn't cook well, you all. Wow, this is really delicious." Tian Linger suddenly shouted out, couldn't help but stuff another bamboo slice into her mouth. Zhang Xiaofan was stunned, saw his senior brothers smiling, nodding and their chopsticks as swift was the wind, kept praising. Didn't expect that little junior brother still has this skill. Awesome, awesome. Unclear. Better than Lao Wu. No, better than Lao Wu and Lao Lu combined together, hee. Even Tian Bui couldn't help but took more food, nodded, his eyes smiled. Zhang Xiaofan saw that and felt satisfied. After that, Zhang Xiaofan continued on in the kitchen. He was not outstanding in his cultivation training path but had a flair for cooking. He learned it by himself and the dishes he cooked were all delicious, far surpassed others. And in his heart, as long as Tian Bui nodded and approved, that was his biggest reward. Time passed, another 6 months went by. Soon Qingyun sect's 7 branches martial contest, conducted every 60 years arrived. Not only Suru, even Tian Bui started to supervise his disciples. Everyone focused on training, nobody came to bother Zhang Xiaofan and none harbored hope on him too. Zhang Xiaofan did not mind. Every day he was busy in the kitchen, derived his joy from working with the pots and pans. In his spare time he would train by himself, and every late night he would practice. Great Brahman wisdom, true way. His days passed by peacefully. And in this period of time, that grey monkey which had followed him back, also stayed for half a year. The human and monkey had grown close and Zhang Xiaofan even named it, Xiao Wei. The name was similar to his, simple and plain. Ever since he started work in the kitchen, Xiao Wei received special advantages due to its position. It frequently followed him to the kitchen, grabbed a bamboo slice on the right, a fruit on the left, sneaked and ate food the whole day, and 6 months later it gained twice its weight. But on the Big Bamboo Valley, Xiao Wei actually had a rival. That was the big yellow dog raised by Tian Bui since young, Big Huang. For some reason, Big Huang found the monkey an eyesore. Initially it always barked at it every time it saw Xiao Wei. Xiao Wei was so frightened that it always scrambled to higher grounds, and later on as time passed, it finally was forced to acknowledge Xiao Wei was also a member on the Big Bamboo Valley. But every time they met, it bared his teeth fiercely and Xiao Wei would be so frightened it would shrieked out while Da Huang would wong barked, raised its head high, shook its tail and walked away. Autumn left and winter came. The air on the mountain became colder. Other than Tian Bui and his wife, who were highly skilled, were no longer bothered by the ordinary cold. The other disciples started to increase their clothing. This day, it was a rare day where the sun shone and warmed the summit. Zhang Xiaofan, after finishing his chores in the kitchen, walked out, stretched his back and sat down by a pine tree outside. Leaning against the tree, he closed his eyes and enjoyed the sun. After a while, as he was about to doze off, he suddenly heard barking from afar. He opened his eyes and saw Da Huang was also lying down and soaking in the sun, and Xiao Wei was slowly nudging towards it from the back. Zhang Xiaofan was curious. Da Huang frequently came to the kitchen to look for food and he was familiar with it too, and so he was also aware of the dog and monkey's relationship. Today the sun seemed to rise from the west. Xiao Wei actually took the initiative to go near Da Huang. Zhang Xiaofan immediately paid attention and watched closely. Xiao Wei soon came near. Da Huang did not realize, but its nose moved and soon smelled the scent. It turned around and immediately snared, wong barked. Xiao Wei shrank back, still looked rather afraid, but its eyes shifted around a few times, its right hand raised, waved in front of Da Huang. Da Huang at first did not notice and kept barking, but soon its nose twitched and picked up something. Its dog eyes immediately stared at Xiao Hui's hand, unblinking and unmoving. It stopped barking too, opened its mouth and rolled its tongue out, even its tail started to wag, signaling friendliness. Zhang Xiaofan couldn't believe his eyes, looked carefully and laughed silently. Xiao Wei was holding a meat bone, the meat fragrance he could even smell from this distance. That was what he was using to boil the soup broth, and he knew Da Huang liked it and so had placed it at a high place after cooking. Unexpectedly Xiao Wei had stole it and used it to gain favor. Xiao Wei shook it twice and threw it in front of Da Huang. Da Huang was already salivating, immediately bit the bone and Zizi munched non-stopped. Xiao Wei looked at Da Huang, Gigi called out and carefully approached it, hesitated and stretched out its paw towards Da Huang's head. Da Huang suddenly growled. Xiao Wei quickly took its hand back, but not long after, it tried again. This time Da Huang did not react and was busy with its bone. Xiao Wei gently smoothed Da Huang's head, shiny soft yellow fur. Da Huang actually seemed to feel comfortable, retreated its head a little, softly called out, but it seemed no longer hostile. Xiao Wei became bolder, laughed and called out twice, started to mess with Da Huang's fur, as if looking for lice. A few times Da Huang turned its head and actually licked Xiao Wei. The relationship between the monkey and dog seemed to change faster than anything. Zhang Xiaofan watched dumbfoundedly, thought to himself that Xiao Wei was really smart, but seemed like he would have to hide the bone somewhere else next time. While thinking of that, the sound of wind piercing past was heard from above. 2 white streaks of light swept over from the west. Da Huang seemed to get a shock, barked at the white lights. Xiao Wei patted it on its head, as if assuring, and it really worked. Da Huang actually quietened down. Zhang Xiaofan watched as the 2 lights landed at observed silence hall. After a flash, 2 people, one slim and graceful, carried himself with ease and poise. White robes fluttered, extremely dashing. Another was a youth, shorter in height, about 15, 16 years old. Zhang Xiaofan suddenly held his breath. A forgotten pain slowly surfaced from the depths of his heart, because of that back figure which looked somehow lonely. Jingyu. He stood up, his voice hoarse, called out. That youth's body shook, immediately turned around, both eyes became wide and he opened his mouth, as if wanted to say something, but in the end, thousands of words became only 2. Xiaofan. Chapter 13 Rare Talent. Longsho Valley Kangsong Taoist's disciple Qihao, Lin Jingyu, pay our respects to Tian teacher uncle, Su teacher aunt. In the observed silence hall, Tian Buyi and Suru sat on the chairs, the other disciples lined up beside. The 2 white-robed persons, was Lin Jingyu and the dashing youth named Qihao, were greeting Tian Buyi. Zhang Xiaofan stood at the end of the line of disciples, looking at Lin Jingyu. Not met for several years, everyone had grown up. And at this moment, Lin Jingyu also turned and glanced at Zhang Xiaofan. Both of their glances met. Lin Jingyu smiled. Zhang Xiaofan felt a warm feeling, emotions running through him, nodded. Tian Buyi's gaze lingered at Qihao and glanced at Lin Jingyu. His face turned dark. These 2 elegant demeanor, alert and good features. With his eyes, he could tell immediately that their aptitude far surpassed his disciples. Not to mention Qihao, who was already well known among the Qingyun sect younger generations. It was instead the young Lin Jingyu. From the fact that he could wield his sword and fly, it would mean he had already practiced until Taiji Zanwei 4th level and above, and he had just entered the sect 3.5 years ago. It was really astonishing. Tian Buyi subconsciously glanced at Zhang Xiaofan. Comparing the 2, Tian Buyi's mood turned ugly, coldly said, "Why did you teacher send you over?" Qihao cupped his hands together and said, "Reporting to Tian teacher uncle, our teacher Kangsong Taoist is instructed by sect head Reverend Daoshuan, is organizing the 7 branches martial contest to be held 2 years later. And as there are quite a few changes, he especially instructed me and junior brother to come forward to report." Tian Buyi snorted, assessed Lin Jingyu from top to bottom, said, "He deliberately wants to show off, right?" Qihao and Lin Jingyu's countenances changed. Lin Jingyu was about to speak up, but Qihao grabbed and stopped him, smiled and said, "Tian teacher uncle really knows how to joke. We are all under Qingyun sect. Furthermore, Tian teacher uncle is someone of noble character and high prestige. Our teacher does not have any intention of being disrespectful." Tian Buyi's face was dark. There wasn't the slightest change. Instead, Suru smiled and gently said, "You don't have to mind. Tian teacher uncle was kidding." "Oh right, you said there are changes. What's happening?" Qihao respectfully said, replying to Suru teacher aunt, "The thing is this, for the past 7 branches martial contest, every branch will send out 4 people and the main branch Tongtian branch will send out another 4, a total of 32 people, and we would pick lots to decide the matches and the winners get to advance. As such there would be 5 rounds and the last winner will become the most talented among Qingyun sect younger generation and receive the various elder teachers' devoted teachings. Suru pursued her lips and smiled, her bearing graceful, speaking of which at the last contest, you were the center of attention, I remembered in the end you were the runner-up, if it wasn't for the main branch who had Xiao Yikai, most likely you would be the contest #1 martial arts scholar. Qihao's countenance did not change, smiled and said, Su teacher aunt is too kind, at the last competition Xiao Yikai from the main branch, Xiao senior brother who is a gifted talent, his cultivation deep, I am far from him and I admitted defeat sincerely. But as for the upcoming competition, our teacher and Reverend Daoshuan had discussed and made some changes to the rules, and instructed us to come forward to update both teachers. Tian Bui and Suru were surprised and asked, what is it? Qihao said, our teacher Kangsong Taoist felt that the competition's intent is to discover the disciples' potentials and further develop them. And Qingyun sect today already has about close to 1,000, there are many new disciples and no lack of many who are outstanding talents. As with such thoughts, with this opportunity which comes only every 60 years, only 4 are sent from every branch, it is really too little. Therefore, our teacher suggested to have 9 per branch, and additional 1 more from the main branch which has the most disciples, a total of 64 people, and as per tradition, we will choose lots and a total of 6 rounds to determine the winner. This way we can also eliminate the regret of unrecognized talents. Tian Bui and Suru looked at each other, his expression turned even more worse. His disciples were few and their aptitudes poor, initially upon hearing they seemed to be at an advantage but in reality it was a great pro to the main branch, Tongtian Peak, and Longsho Valley who had the biggest population and most talents. Suru saw that her husband was fuming, shook her head slightly, signaling with her eyes. Tian Bui understood his wife's message and since this matter was already discussed with the sect head, it meant it was already decided, it was useless to argue, and so coldly said, as such it is good, I don't have any opinion. Qihao smiled and said, like this will be the best. Other than that, before leaving teacher has also instructed, that is this Lin junior brother and Tian teacher uncle's disciple Zhang Junor brother are old acquaintances, hoping that Tian teacher uncle allow both of them to catch up. Tian Bui was already feeling agitated, waved his hand and impatiently said, allow. Lin Jingyu was already long impatient but did not dare to speak as before him was an elder senior, and once he had heard it was allowed, he turned and walked towards Zhang Xiaofan. Zhang Xiaofan feeling emotional, also walked out. Lin Jingyu came to him, carefully assessed him, his eyes suddenly turned red, hoarsely said, you have grown up Xiaofan. Zhang Xiaofan, feeling different emotions gushing together, nodded hard and said, you too. Oh right, the tragic case at the village, do you have any news? Lin Jingyu shook his head said, I have asked the teacher many times for the past few years, but there is no progress, you. Zhang Xiaofan smiled bitterly, me too. Lin Jingyu pulled his hand and said, let's talk outside. Zhang Xiaofan hesitated, turned and looked at Tian Bui and Suru. Tian Bui ignored him, Suru smiled and said, go ahead. Zhang Xiaofan was greatly delighted, nodded and quickly went out with Lin Jingyu. In the great hall, Qihao was the only guest. Wearing white, he was outstandingly charming and looked at ease, he looked over at the disciples and finally on Song Darren, cupped his hands and said, this must be Song Darren's senior brother, we met once at the last contest too. Song Darren quickly returned the gesture, said, Chi's senior brother has good memory, actually remembered me this defeated soldier. The rest were surprised. Tian Linger stood beside her mother, quietly asked, Mother, was big senior brother defeated by him? Suru nodded, whispered back, yes. Your big senior brother had managed to win 2 rounds, both your dad and me were delighted but unexpectedly at the 3rd round he met this person, and after a few exchanges he lost. Tian Linger stuck out her tongue and said, then isn't he very powerful? Suru did not answer her immediately, instead glanced at her husband, he was still looking grim, sat unmoving, shook her head, said, Qihao's aptitude is indeed above your big senior brother. That day at the competition there wasn't any fake showy movements, especially that celestial sword, ice sword, was made using extreme northern 10,000 years old ice, it has great powers, your big senior brother cannot win over him. By then, Tian Bui seemed to feel something, turned and looked at Suru, both of them looked at each other, looked through what both hearts were thinking silently, if Big Bamboo Valley had such a talent, how wonderful it would be. Qihao and the other disciples chatted together, He had accomplished cultivation, trusted by the teachers and frequently traveled out. He was knowledgeable and eloquent, his words a stream of witticisms. Immediately the rest felt close to him, even Song Darren who was defeated also had no enmity. Laughters were heard, no matter what crude jokes that Chihao said, the rest laughed loudly, following which Chihao's gaze landed on Tian Linger who was standing behind Suru, and then the amber scarlet silk on her waist. His eyes lit up, smiled and asked, "This lady must be the famous Tian Linger, Tian Junior sister." Tian Linger raised her eyebrows, asked, "How did you know me?" Chihao smiled, walked up and said, "Tian Junior sister this year is 16, has made amazing progress on Taiji Zan Qing True Wei. This is well known in the sect, I have long admired. Today I have seen you, it is really as said." Tian Linger turned red, annoying asked, "You have not duel with me before, how do you know I am as said?" Chihao was stunned for a moment and then smiled. "Tian Junior sister is not only as beautiful as a flower, you are also sharp, really made me as a senior brother ashamed." Tina Linger saw that this tall and handsome figure standing before her, and praised her beautiful. Her heart felt sweet but her face remained the same and said, "Only know how to speak nonsense, what senior brother, no shame." Tian Bui frowned. Suru had already spoken. "Linger, do not speak nonsense." Chihao quickly said to Suru, "Su teacher aunt please do not blame junior sister, it is all because I have spoken without thoughts, offended her." He paused and took out a small box from his bosom, passed to Tian Linger, smiled, "Tian junior sister, the clear cool pearl. In this box I had obtained by chance many years ago when I followed my teacher to do justice and exterminated a group of evil sect disciples. Although it is not any rare treasure but it is able to drive away the heat and cool the body, and it is also said to be beneficial to women's skin. Today I will give to junior sister, as to ask for forgiveness." Tian Linger turned red again. Before she could speak, Suru cut in, "Chi nephew, this clear cool pearl is also a treasure. Linger does not deserve this, please take it back quickly." Chihao smiled and said, "Su teacher aunt did not know, this clear cool pearl doesn't really has great benefits to me, it's like a chicken rib. But Tian junior sister is young and beautiful, this is just right for her, it is also considered a little sincerity from me, I hope Tian junior sister does not mind." Tian Linger glanced at Chihao, her expression had turned much gentle, took over the box and quietly said, "Many thanks Chi senior brother." Chihao seemed really happy, smiling broadly, don't have to, junior sister you are naturally clever, in the future your future is boundless. To mention although Qing Yun sect had many talents but with your aptitude there are not many, I too acknowledge my inferiority." Tian Bui heard it and for the first time, revealed a smile. Tian Linger said, "Senior brother you are too kind." Chihao shook his head said, "No, I am also brought up the mountain by teacher since young but to have your cultivation level at this young age, I am far from it." But Tian Linger was young and had good feelings towards Chihao after he praised her. When she heard, "But," she couldn't help but ask, "But what?" Tian Bui and Suru also turned over, wanted to hear what did Chihao mean by his, "But." Chihao continued, "But if it's just comparing aptitude, he could rival Tian junior sister." Tian Linger was surprised, said, "Who?" Chihao smiled and pointed outside the hall, "It is my junior brother. Ever since he accepted by our teacher 3 years ago, in the short space of time his progress is astonishing, he is also a gifted talent in cultivation, there is none comparable in our branch, in 3 years he has broke through Jade Qing realm 4th level, for 1,000 years we have never heard of someone like that." Chihao was full of warmth and love when he spoke of this, teacher is full of praise for Lin junior brother, said he is a rare talent once in 1,000 years, almost can be compared to our Qingyi founder. Pa! A crisp sound, everyone was shocked, turned and looked, Tian Bui's face was ashen, his countenance extremely ugly, the chair's sturdy armrest was physically broken off by him. Chihao was stunned, quietly asked Suru, "Su teacher aunt, did I say anything wrong?" Suru forced a smile and was about to speak, suddenly a loud shout outside, "Aiya!" Before the sound ended, a figure crashed in onto the floor and rolled a few times back, dust covered his face, a sorry sight. Everyone looked carefully, who could it be other than Zhang Xiaofan? Everyone was shocked, Tian Linger was the closest to Zhang Xiaofan, was the first to dash up, helped him up, urgently asked, "Xiaofan, what happened?" Zhang Xiaofan had a bad fall, he was still feeling giddy but still said, nothing, I am all right." And at this time, Lin Jingyu also ran in, looking anxious, said, "Xiaofan, are you all right? I lost control for a moment." Tian Linger heard that and knew this person had bullied her junior brother, immediately enraged, and after hearing Qihao praised Lin Jingyu earlier, felt she was inferior to him and was even more uncomfortable. Without much thought, she stood up and angrily said, "Who are you to bully others?" And with a hand formula, red light flashed, amber scarlet silk was already wielded, suo a sound and it charged to Lin Jingyu. Suru and Qihao at the same time shouted, "Stop!" But amber scarlet silk was as quick as lightning, the next moment already before Lin Jingyu. Lin Jingyu was surprised but calm, saw colorful lights before him and knew it was a celestial weapon, immediately stepped back 3 steps, his left finger pointed to the sky, right finger to the ground, his hand forming the formula, with a loud shout, "Up!" Crash dragons singing, immediately filled the hall. Lin Jingyu was enveloped by a green light, a celestial clear sword illuminating thousands of zhong was wielded, the blade as clear as autumn water, auspicious air rising abundantly, for a moment not only suppressed amber scarlet silk's fierce rays but it also reflected each and everyone's face in the hall as jade color. Tian Buyi suddenly humphed, coldly said, "Kang Song is really willing to part with," actually passed him the Dragon Slayer sword. Qihao saw that Lin Jingyu was not hurt and so was relieved, smiled and said, "Teacher has once said, junior brother is gifted, in the future will surely be someone great, and so do his utmost to groom him, this is also a given." Tian Buyi's expression turned uglier. The amber scarlet silk and Dragon Slayer sword was equally matched but Tian Linger's eyes turned wide, her arms shook, red clothes fluttered, her body actually was raised up, right and left hands crossed in front of her chest, making an orchid shape, shouted, "Fu Shen." Bright rays immediately extended, the original 3 kai long amber scarlet silk, suddenly retreated and flew to Tian Linger, after a loud crisp sound, bright rays illuminated, extremely swift, in that instant grew to multiple times bigger, filled the entire hall completely, suppressed Dragon Slayer sword's green light and the next moment, transformed into thousands of silk ropes and charged towards Lin Jingyu, enclosed him tightly. Suru stood up and shouted to the air, "Linger, do not be imprudent." But while she was speaking, the thousands of red ropes had already enclosed tightly around Lin Jingyu, not only they couldn't see him but Tian Linger was also encased in layers of bright red light. Zhang Xiaofan was dumbfounded, and suddenly heard someone said from behind, "Amber scarlet silk really lives up to its name." He turned and looked, it was Qihao whose gaze was transfixed on the scene, his mouth muttering but he looked totally unconcerned. It looked as if Tian Linger was winning. Suddenly a sharp noise was heard, a gap appeared from the layers of red ropes, revealing a little green light. Tian Buyi and Suru changed countenance at the same time. Rumble. A loud sound, like an angry dragon howling to the sky, the sound shook 9 heavens, in that instant that gap expanded several hundred times, green light again surged out, Lin Jingyu joined with the sword, entire body an indistinct dragon figure, like an arrow leaving the bow, its momentum unstoppable towards Tian Linger. Everyone was shocked. Tian Linger did not panic, both hands before her chest formed a taiji drawing the air, the layers of red ropes returned to her and transformed into a barrier. Sounds of crackings unceasingly, Lin Jingyu's Dragon Slayer sword slashed layer and layer of red ropes, its momentum slightly reduced but its force ahead did not reduce, soon both of them would come to a life-death outcome. Zhang, a cold energy was felt, Dragon Slayer's sword like cotton waste, was hit back. Lin Jingyu was shocked, looked up but in that instant, it formed an ice wall between him and Tian Linger, the energy assaulting, Dragon Slayer's sword force was astonishing but it could not go past this wall. And Qihao was already before him, pulled him back and retreated about 1 zhang away. On the other side, Tian Linger was pale and Suru had already in an instant pulled her to her bosom, retreated to Tian Buyi's side. The 2 celestial weapons without their controls, gradually lost their radiance, each flew back to their owner's hands. In the observed silence hall, a blanket of silence. Chapter 14, Divine Power. Lisa's note. This is from another translation group. Some names and terminologies may not match the previous translation group. Tian Buyi stood up and examined Bei. The color of his face was extremely bad. He said coldly, "Good skill. Good momentum." Kevin whispered to Bei, "Shidi, apologize quickly." Bei frowned and stepped in front. He spoke, but it was to Sha Danan. "Xiao Fan, that was my bad. It was just testing to see each other's level of cultivation, however, I didn't hold back my strength. Sorry." Sha Danan was really worried about his friend, but he said, "No, it was nothing." Tian Buyi became more angry. He suddenly took a step forward. Red glow passed by on his face. Kevin began to worry. He was different from Bei. He was in Jadon for a long time and knew Bamboo Peak is way weaker than the other 6 houses. However, their headmaster Tien Bolis and his wife Saran had unbelievable strength. No one ever dared to underestimate them. Even the proud master Vasp Kalo reminded him before they departed, although Tien Bolis has a bad temper, his cultivation skill is extremely high, plus his wife is also well known in Jadon for her wisdom. Even our head of the faction Master Doyle Shen needed to treat the couple with high respect. It was best not to make him mad if not necessary. But Bei didn't know about it. Even if he did know, he wouldn't remember it anyway. Tien Bolis became even more angry. Just when he was about to make a move, Saran pulled his hand, her lips lightly smiled. You are already so old, why bother arguing with a junior? Tien Bolis was startled for a moment and stopped. Kevin quickly stood in front of Bei, also said, Tien Shishu, please forgive us. For the sake of our master, please don't argue with the ignorant younger generation. Sha Danan knew Bei had made his master angry. In his eyes, Bei was the only orphan of Grass Temple Village. Bei was just like his own brother. He couldn't help but keep down in front of Tien Bolis, said, Master, it's all disciples' fault. I saw Jing Yu, no, Lin Shishong had brought his sword, so I was interested to see his level of cultivation. That's why we fought, it's all disciple. Tien Bolis was already holding his anger and had no place to express it. Kevin was enough already, but now Sha Danan speaking there like an idiot. He couldn't hold his rage anymore. Shut up, you useless fool. Then, he waved his sleeve. Sha Danan felt strong wind blow at him. All the air surrounding him seemed to disappear. The mighty force pushed his body away and threw him into the wall of Hall of Quietude. Bang! His body landed on the hard, stable wall, then he fell on the ground. Sha Danan felt dizzy, then he spewed out large amounts of blood from his mouth. Within Hall of Quietude, everyone was stunned. Dad, Hidi was the first one to cry out. She rushed forward and helped Sha Danan to stand up. Bei ran almost at the same time. He saw the blood on Sha Danan's chest. He wouldn't be as angry if the one who had been injured was himself. However, Sha Danan was trying to help him and that's why he got injured. Bei couldn't care anymore. He turned and shouted at Tien Bolis. Short fatty, what were you trying to do? At that time, Dragon Slayer seemed to understand its master. The green glow brightened up again. Tien Bolis' eyes opened wide. He must have been mad because of the words, short fatty. He swung his arm, then disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. Kevin quickly shouted, Shidi, careful. Bei was already prepared. He saw Tien Bolis moving as swift as a ghost. Bei immediately held up Dragon Slayer, using the sword spirit to create a green aura to protect himself. Tien Bolis saw the mighty green light as nothing. He suddenly appeared in front of Bei and forced all the green glow to back away 3 feet. Tien Bolis' large, angry eyes were almost touching Bei's face. Bei was nervous. He took a few steps back unsteadily. Even in this case, Dragon Slayer was still hanging in midair defending its master. Tien Bolis laughed coldly. His right hand suddenly reached out and passed through the sword spirit. Red glow appeared on his palm. With the red glow he pushed back the green light. He quickly seized Dragon Slayer. Kevin immediately dashed in front of Bei and shouted loudly, Tien Shishu, please have mercy. Tien Bolis didn't go after him. He let Bei be protected by Kevin. He just focused on an examination of Dragon Slayer. At that time, almost all the green sword spirit was gone. However, Dragon Slayer still struggled in Tien Bolis' hand, shown half of his body green. Tien Bolis raised his eyes and said coldly, Dragon Slayer is 9 skies Esper, but it doesn't guarantee invincibility. Then, his fingers suddenly grabbed hard onto the handle. Dragon Slayer immediately stopped moving. At the next moment, green glare rose up again, much more brightly than Bei's. Kevin cried out, Tien Shishu. Tien Bolis' face was as cold as ice. He said no more. His right hand held Dragon Slayer and gave a powerful slash toward Bei in Kevin's direction. The green light mightily glared, creating a green pillar that is 2 persons in height. Kevin grit his teeth. Both of his hands held out sword fingers and drew out a white sword. This was his famous, frozen ice, sword. The green pillar Tien Bolis released almost reached them. Kevin protected Bei and walked back a few steps. His right hand made a different sword mark. Frozen ice, swiftly sent out white light, formed 7 layers of ice wall. The green sword Kai broke through the ice walls easily unlike Bei's. It crushed the ice walls into millions of pieces. The green sword Kai had no sign of weakening, it charged toward Kevin like an angry dragon. Kevin's face was pale and had nowhere to go. He used all his strength and used frozen ice to form a shield with a white glow. Bang! The green sword Kai hit against the white light. Although it didn't immediately crush the shield, it pushed the white glow back rapidly. Kevin used all his strength and managed to hold the green sword Kai 1 foot away. It was just like a human trying to hold off against an aggressive beast. Kevin tried to keep the shield going, but his feet began to collapse and be pushed backward by the powerful strength. From the beginning of this interaction until now, Tien Bullies stood still where he was and did not make a move. Dragon Slayer's green glow, however, was getting brighter and brighter. Kevin and Bei were pushed out of Hall of Quietude to the ground outside. At the place where the green light passed by, it seemed like it had been slashed by a large blade. A 1-foot-deep rift was left in its way. The green light pushed back Kevin another 3 yards. The white light shield was only 6 inches away from Kevin's body. His feet sank into the earth. A moment later, Kevin couldn't hold any longer. White light disappeared. Frozen ice got hit with great force into the air and lost control. Kevin and Bei's faces were as pale as a dead person. But then, the green light suddenly stopped in midair at the critical moment. Kevin was sweating, he did not dare to move. After a while, the green light was no longer controlled and slowly disappeared. Clang! Frozen ice landed on the ground in front of them. Kevin put himself together a little. He quickly said respectfully, "Thank you for Tien Shishu's kindness." Bei was still surprised to see the common-looking Tien Bullies had such great power. Suddenly an item was tossed out from Hall of Quietude. Kevin and Bei were surprised. It was Dragon Slayer. It landed right in front of them, next to frozen ice. "You two leave, Tien Bullies." Voice returned to normal. Coldness was clearly visible. Kevin quickly responded and pulled Bei along. They retrieved their own swords and flew back. The disciples saw Tien Bullies, anger. None dared to make a sound. Especially Sha Danan, it was his first time seeing Tien Bullies use his mystic power. He almost forgot his own wound on his chest. He accidentally tore his wound, he immediately cried, "Ouch!" Tien Bullies heard Sha Danan's cry. He looked toward Sha Danan. Sha Danan forced himself to bear the pain. Tien Bullies did not say anything. He looked at all the disciples. Everyone lowered their head and did not want to meet his eyes. Tien Bullies sighed and shook his head. He put both hands on his back and walked toward the rear hall. Saran told everyone, "All of you leave for now." The disciples answered. Hidi carried Sha Danan and left with the disciples. After everyone walked out of Hall of Quietude, Saran went into the rear hall and passed the back door. She saw Tien Bullies standing in the corridor and looking at the bamboo in the courtyard. Saran walked next to her husband, softly asked, "Why so mad today?" Tien Bullies slight shook his head, responded back, "When Linger fought with Bei earlier, Kevin formed ice wall to stop Dragon Slayer. You saw what happened, right?" Saran sighed. He didn't take out frozen ice. Tien Bullies snorted. Last 7 Peaks tournament, Kevin needed to rely on the power of Esper to form ice wall. I can't imagine he already reached that level within just several decades. Then he turned and looked at Saran. "What level of cultivation do you think he is at?" Saran said. "When he cast, he seemed relaxed and not using all his power, that means he is at least Yu Qing level 8. Tien Bullies opened his mouth then stopped. Saran helped him to continue. "Within Bamboo Peak, none can be his opponent." Tien Bullies deeply looked at his wife, then slowly he turned his head, looked at the bamboo in the garden. As winter grew closer, the green leaves had become yellow. After a moment, he suddenly asked, "How is 7th? Saran looked at him, her lips smiled. "How good can he be? He coughed out loads of blood due to you, great master." Tien Bullies' fat body shook, but he didn't turn his head. "Tonight, bring him a yellow pill. Don't let him pretend to be dead tomorrow and make all of us starve." Saran kept on smiling. Night came, the sky darkened. Sha Danan slowly walked back to his dormitory. After he pushed the door open, Ash was the first one who rushed into the room, then Big Yella followed. The monkey and the dog played around in his room. Sha Danan smiled a little. He sat down next to the table. His chest still hurt, but his brain was filled with the scene of battle between Tien Bullies and the others. He could not help but sigh. What is the use of sighing? A gentle sound came from outside. Sha Danan was surprised. He turned and saw Saran was standing at the door. The night wind blew her clothes about, like a fairy from heaven. He quickly stood up, said, "Shi Niang." Saran walked to him, put her hand on his shoulder, smiled, "It's all right, sit." Sha Danan followed the order and sat down. Saran carefully examined his face and put her hand on his chest, then nodded, "Good, nothing too serious." She took out a white bottle and poured out a yellow pill that's about the size of a fingertip. She passed it to Sha Danan. "Take it." Sha Danan hesitated for a moment, then he took the pill and swallowed it. A warm feeling came from his stomach, then to his limbs. The pain in his chest disappeared. Sha Danan rose up and exercised his body. Everything was normal. He hurriedly said to Saran, "Thank you, Xiniang." Saran nodded. She took back the bottle and sat on the other chair. She said, "No need to thank me. It was your master who was the one who told me to bring you yellow pill." Sha Danan was startled, asked, "Master is not mad at me anymore?" Saran looked at him, smiled, "He told me to come see you, surely he is not mad at you." "I don't know if you are mad at him." Sha Danan was surprised, immediately said, "No, Xiniang, I would never dare." Saran raised her hand and stopped Sha Danan, said gently, "Xiao Fan, listen to me, okay?" Sha Danan quietly said, "Yes, Xiniang." Saran said, "Today your master hit you, it was his fault. I saw it, however, he regretted after he hit you. His temper is just." Her gentle face had signs of sadness. She continued, "He is a competitive person, always cares about his reputation. Even if he regrets, he won't say it out loud, so don't hate him." Sha Danan shook his head. "Xiniang, I am not mad at master. It's just me being too stupid, made master mad." Saran looked at him, lightly sighed, "It has nothing to do with you, actually. Cultivation is based on one's quality and potential. Although hard work will pay off, but still the result will be less than others. Your master understands that. What he was worrying about is not that." Sha Danan was curious, asked, "What is it that master worried about?" Saran smiled helplessly. "The people like Kevin are almost impossible to get. Now in Jadon, Bamboo Peak is getting weaker and weaker. Although your master's cultivation is high, disciples often got teased by all Shibo and Shishu. His heart has a lot of difficulty bearing it. He also worries one day he will leave, Bamboo Peak will never be able to come back. He won't be able to face all the ancestors of Bamboo Peak. All the burdens are on him. Actually, it is very miserable." Sha Danan was silent. Saran then realized, smiled bitterly, "Really? What is the use to tell this to a 14-year-old kid?" She stood up and slapped his shoulder, "Rest early." Sha Danan answered, "Yes, Xiniang, walk slowly." Saran nodded, then left. Sha Danan followed her to the door. After he saw Saran's shadow was gone, he returned back into the room. But just when he came back, he saw, next to his desk, in the light a candle, a lady in red standing there. He was startled, then quietly cried, "Shiji." Chapter 15. Secretly Teach. The lady was Hidi no doubt. She was worried about Sha Danan's injury, so she came to see him, but she could never have imagined her mother would be there, too. So Hidi hid outside of the door and waited for Saran to be gone. She noticed Sha Danan was rooted on the floor. She said angrily, "What are you standing there for?" Sha Danan woke up. He tried to find an excuse, but then he saw Hidi lowered her head. "It's because Big Yella came and pushed against Heidi's leg." Hidi bent over and patted Big Yella's head. Big Yella licked her hand. Creak creak, Ash went behind Big Yella and pulled on its tail. Seemed like it wanted to pull Big Yella away from Hidi. Ash felt Heidi's eyes. He looked up and showed his teeth. Hidi didn't get angry. She made a face toward the monkey in reply. Since Ash came here, it went along well with everyone except Hidi. Hidi was surprised to find Big Yella didn't go aggressive at Ash. "What happened?" Hidi asked Sha Danan while pointing at Ash and Big Yella. Sha Danan told her about the meat bone. Hidi laughed. "Can't believe that stupid monkey did that trick." Then she changed topic. She examined Sha Danan, asked, "Today, my dad hit you, anywhere not feeling well?" Sha Danan shook his head. "Nothing, Shiji." Hidi said, "What's the matter with dad? He is not happy and vented his anger onto you." Sha Danan quickly said, "No, it's my stupidity that made master mad." Hidi stared at him. Sha Danan held back what he was going to say. Hidi snorted. "It has nothing to do with you, actually. It's just because he saw the two people had good potential, so his mind." Then she stopped and looked at Sha Danan. She realized that meant she was saying he is stupid, then she changed topic again. What was my mom coming here for? Sha Danan replied honestly. Xinniang came to visit me and gave me 2 yellow pills. Very effective, I was fully recovered after taking 1 yellow pill. Hidi was surprised. Yes, Sha Danan looked at her, asked, what it is. Hidi said, that is my dad's treasure. I heard mom say it was made from 23 different types of spiritual herbs. Marvelous medicinal effect, even I didn't have the luck to take it. Sha Danan's mouth opened wide. Heidi's eyes rolled, continued, perhaps my dad was impressed by you, but doesn't seem like it. Sha Danan said, it must be master's kindness. He saw me injured, so he gave me a magical pill. He, senior, is very broad-minded. Hidi laughed. My dad, broad-minded, heh. Anyway, I'm not going to argue this with you. Why is there the sound of rain? Sha Danan listened carefully. Outside really was raining. Hidi walked to the window. She pushed the window open. Cool wind came in from the window. Cold, tiny raindrops hit on the face. The sky rained in the silent dark of night. Everywhere was dark except for the blurry shadow of the bamboo in the courtyard. The rain fell from the sky. In Sha Danan's eyes, it was gentle. He even felt that the night was beautiful, the rain was melodious, when the raindrops hit against the bamboo leaves he was pleased to listen to its sounds. The sound that resonated within his soul. Standing next to him was a beautiful lady. Happiness and sadness within this beauty. She was watching. At this rain, Big Yella and Ash also quieted down. Big Yella lay on the bed. His eyes were half opened. Ash sat next to Big Yella and searched through Big Yella's thick fur. Candle's fire suddenly flickered in the mountain wind, making a soft popping sound. It's raining, Hidi softly said. Sha Danan answered. Yeah. Hidi stared into the night for a few moments, then turned back to the table, quietly said, Xiao Fan, close the window will you? It is getting cold. Sha Danan nodded and closed the window. Hidi sat next to the table absently. She took out a small box, then opened it under the light. The candle reflected in her eyes, like a pair of gentle flames. Say, do you think this, refresh bead, is pretty? Heidi's eyes were fixed upon the bright, small bead. Her voice wasn't stable. Sha Danan's heart suddenly felt empty, slowly sank. He went to her with all his courage. He used all his strength to make himself look normal. Hidi raised her head and looked at him. She suddenly found her Shidi's eyes were so bright, but at the same time, so sorrowful and wild. She lightly closed the box, asked gently, Xiao Fan, what is it? Sha Danan lowered his head, fell silent for a moment, then said, I am all right, Shiji. Hidi felt weird, but didn't bother much about it. She stood up and said, okay, it's late now. I should head back. Sha Danan woodenly stood up. Hidi took a few steps, then suddenly stopped and turned around smiling. The beauty of that moment hit deeply in Sha Danan's heart. How could I forget this? I even forgot the point for me coming tonight. Sha Danan took it and read a few lines, then he cried, pure essence incantation. Shiji, this. Hidi rolled her eyes, said angrily, why did you cry out so loud? Sha Danan immediately lowered his voice. Shiji, this is the level 3 incantation. You. Me. Hidi snorted. Of course I am giving it to you. Sha Danan was surprised. What? Hidi said. I know Dad always looked down on you. Today he hit you, it was even more idiotic. He doesn't even bother to teach his own disciple and scolds you. I don't want to see it anymore. You use this incantation and practice it secretly. Achieve whatever someday and show my dad. Don't be so embarrassed like today. Sha Danan frowned. But Shiji, if Master and Xinniang know it, they will scold you. Hidi said impatiently. You already said they will scold me. Just a few words and lock me up for a few days. So what? I can't let you get fooled by other people. Sha Danan was shocked. His heart was like a burning flame. He looked at Heidi's figure. At that moment he thought, even if he died for her, he will never regret. Hidi said, you also need to remember to put in more effort. One day, find a chance to have a draw with that stinky bae. However, you will never catch up to Kevern Shishong, don't even think about it. Then, she waved her hand, keep everything a secret. She left and disappeared into the darkness swiftly. You will never catch up to Kevern Shishong. These words, each hit heavily in Sha Danan's heart. His face was pale, his hand held the paper tight. Within the mountain and rain, sky and earth, who can see that youngster, walking in the rain and looking at the sky? At dawn, after the rain, Sha Danan came back to his familiar kitchen and began to boil water. The bright fire in the stove was like an evil spirit dancing on the flame, shone red against his face. Sha Danan used a thin piece of firewood as a fire stick and moved the firewood around. You will never catch up to Kevern Shishong. These words, he had repeated in his heart thousands of times. Each time it just hurt his heart even more. He knew he was being stupid. Shiji didn't mean it, she only said the truth that everyone would agree with. However, he couldn't help it. There was a wildfire like this in his heart. It kept burning his heart, until the actual fire burned his hand. Ouch! Sha Danan shouted. He jumped back. The thin firewood caught on fire when he was not paying attention and burned his hand. He blew on his hand. Sha Danan went to the jar and put his hand into the cool water. Sha Danan smiled bitterly. Of all the things he needed most now is a fire stick. A few calls came in from the outside. Sha Danan recognized this was Big Yella's voice. He was wondering why Big Yella's usual, bark, had turned into, Sha Danan walked to the door and found Big Yella and Ash were fighting over a black, short rod. Big Yella's mouth was biting one end of the rod while Ash used its hands to tug at the other end. Because Big Yella was biting the short rod, its voice turned into the weird, Sha Danan took the short stick away from them and drove Big Yella and Ash away. He knew they would not go away easily, so he threatened them, go. Don't mess around in here, or else I will not make lunch for you too. Big Yella and Ash exchanged looks. One roared at Sha Danan while one made a face. Then, Ash jumped on Big Yella's back and they walked away. He cursed at the two animals. After Sha Danan returned to the kitchen, he realized the short rod was the strange, short, black stick found in Ancient Valley half a year ago. Ash recovered this somewhere in the room and used it to play with Big Yella. Sha Danan sighed, then an idea came to him. He walked quickly to the stove and pushed the firewood around with the black stick. That stick was made out of some unknown material, it won't catch on fire, and also didn't transfer heat. After the entire morning, the stick was still cool. Sha Danan thought this stick was perfect for him. Pity for the dead Blackheart Elder. If he knew the sinister orb, the most powerful esper of the evil factions, was being used as a fire stick, even if he were resurrected, he would die again of anger. That day at noon, every one of Bamboo Peak's disciples were sitting in the dining room. Tien Bolis was the last one who entered. His eyes landed on Sha Danan for a moment. Sha Danan lowered his head, then, Tien Bolis moved his sight away. So, all of you saw what happened yesterday, right? Tien Bolis asked. Everyone was quiet, only Xavion said, yes, Master had shown his might and punished the nonsense. Tien Bolis suddenly shouted. The disciples were terrified. Tien Bolis said angrily, yesterday, all of you should know other houses' disciples were highly cultivated. Not to mention Kevern, even though he had been adopted for only 3 years, had came and began messing around. Don't you know that? Everyone was silent, only Sha Danan suddenly raised his head. Tien Bolis coldly said, 7 Peaks tournament is almost here. All of you useless people, from today on, everyone lock themselves in their room. If you can't have any decent improvement, let us see if I will peel your skin off. Everyone had the word, unwilling, shown on their face, but none said a word. Hidi carefully asked, Dad, then I shall. You too, Tien Bolis said without hesitation. Just when Hidi was about to speak, her sleeve got pulled on by her mother. Hidi turned and looked at Saran, she then took back the words that she was about to speak. Tien Bolis' voice was resounding through Hall of Quietude, except for 7th, who is responsible for meals, all of you cannot leave here for these 1.5 years. Lock up and practice, understand? So, in the peaceful Bamboo Peak, it was covered by nervousness that had never appeared before. All the disciples were focused on cultivation except a free dog, a naughty monkey and a boring cook. Chapter 16. Navigate Object. Bark, bark. Creak, creak. The bark of a dog and the scream of a monkey mixed together across Mount Jadon's Bamboo Peak, breaking the peaceful quiet. Sha Danan ran out from the kitchen with the black fire stick in his hand. He shouted angrily, stupid dog. Stupid monkey, I dare you not to run. Ash jumped on Big Yella's back. Big Yella was already prepared and ran away. Sha Danan couldn't catch up, and all he could do is watch as Ash made a face and put a delicious bone into Big Yella's mouth. Big Yella was so happy that if it had not been because its teeth needed to hold the bone, its jaw already fell open from laughing so hard. Sha Danan went back to the kitchen with an angry face. He took care of the kitchen since he was 14. His cooking skill was unexpected to everyone. Even the cultivated dog, Big Yella, couldn't help but also hunger for Sha Danan's meal, especially the bone he used for making soup. But the soup was made for humans, although Big Yella was the oldest, should be receiving the highest respect, all he could do is simply watch and not get to eat. After he became friends with Ash, the scene that just happened appeared very commonly in Bamboo Peak. For the past 2 years, no matter how hard Sha Danan tried to hide the bone, with Big Yella's nose and Ash's agility, this bone battle always resulted in defeat for Sha Danan. 2 years passed by fast, actually 1.5 years. Sha Danan had grown into a 16-year-old young man. His body was taller than his Shigihidi now. For this period of time, under Tien Boli's order, every Bamboo Peak disciple needed to practice their cultivation except Amandla, who was traveling. Only Sha Danan as a cook was the most relaxed. For 2 years, under nobody's watch, Sha Danan practiced alone. But the thing he couldn't believe is, following the instruction of Xavion's incantation, with barely 1 year of practice, he seemed to master the 2nd level of Yu Qing, refining vigor. He questioned himself, but he didn't ask Tien Boli's. Xavion and Hidi were focusing on cultivation. They had no time to spare for him. Amandla was also not here. As a result, Sha Danan could only bury the question in his heart. But there was a more important thing facing him. Hidi gave him the incantation for 3rd level secretly. He understood that was a serious act against the faction's rules. But then, every night when he was standing alone in the courtyard and looking at the sky, he always remembered one phrase. You will never catch up to Kevern Shishong. 10 nights later, he began to practice level 3's incantation. In pure essence, Yu Qing's first 3 levels are the foundation of all magic. The difficulty progressively increases. 3rd level was different than the first 2. The first 2 were, introducing spirit, and, refining vigor. The 3rd level's main idea was, energy, focus began to be aimed toward cultivating Tai Chi energy. The incantation stated, Tai Chi energy, 3 combined to 1. Kai, neutral, Yuan, beginning, follow the 12 periods. Yin and Yang combine, energy starts at Z, becomes all things. From open double angle bracket Han Shulu Li Ji close double angle bracket. When Jadon disciples practice this far, the difference between potentials will be made clear. Intelligent disciples would pass this level quickly and move straight into, navigate object, built upon a stable foundation. The disciples with slightly worse potential would stay there forever and might waste their entire life in it. Sha Danan had entered Jadon 5 years ago. He heard a lot from his Shishongs. Clearly all the Shishongs grouped him on the worse side. Sha Danan returned to the kitchen and began to boil water. The fire brightened again. He used the pour fire stick to move the firewood around a few times. After the fire became stable, his eyes looked at the fire stick. He hadn't discovered anything. He was just doing a very natural thing, daydreaming. The entire fire stick was mysteriously black except for the round bead. It was only a foot long. The strange thing was that you could faintly see the red vein-like lines under the black color of the surface. Sha Danan's entire body had shaken. The idea of forging with blood made him sick. These years, he slowly forgot the journey to the ancient valley. Once in a while he woke up in the middle of the night from dreaming of the ancient valley again. At that time he felt he was lonely. One person facing the unknown beast. One person facing the mysterious death. Each time, he had uncontrollable excitement and rage. He was thirsty for blood. He even thought of the monk Pazi in Grass Temple Village a few years ago. Sha Danan did not know why he would have such a feeling. Fortunately he had a way to calm his mind, Fa'an wisdom. This Fu'a incantation could clear out evil thinking from one's mind. He practiced it for 5 years, and the most common use for it was to suppress the strange thought that appeared in his mind for the past 2 years. Suddenly something hit Sha Danan's head. It was a pine cone. Anger rose inside his heart. Sha Danan turned and shouted, "Stupid monkey, don't let me catch you or else, oh, you are, ah." 6th Shishong. Sha Danan saw a person was standing at the door, with a bag on his shoulder and a smile on his face. It was Amandla. Amandla carefully looked at Sha Danan, said, Wow, after just a few years, you brat, you have grown as tall as me. Sha Danan swiftly walked toward him and grabbed his shoulders, smiled. Sixth Shishong, why gone for so long, we all missed you. Amandla smiled. I am back now, aren't I? Then Sha Danan asked, does Master and Xiniang know you are back? Amandla said, no, I just came back and saw there was smoke coming out from the kitchen, so I guess you must be working there, kid. Didn't see me for a few years, did you miss me? Sha Danan nodded. Amandla patted his head, suddenly whispered, come, go see Master with me. Sha Danan was startled, asked, why do you need me to go with you? Amandla said, Master let me travel for 1 year, but then I played, no, I mean, I used an extra half a year to find good material for an esper. I am afraid Master will be mad at me. Come with me. Sha Danan stared at him, so that's why you came to see me first. Oh yeah, Sixth Shishong, what esper did you craft? Amandla hollowly laughed. Ho ho, I just feel like seeing you first. Xiao Shidi, come, come. Then he pulled Sha Danan away. After a while, both Big Yella, who was chewing the bone in the corner, and Ash, who was catching a flea on Big Yella's back, heard a furious roar coming out of Hall of Quietude. Disgraceful person, you tried to anger me to death. At dinner time, for the first time in 2 years, everyone was here, sitting in the dining hall. After everyone had their seat, Tian Boli's face was still angry. When people greeted Amandla, they couldn't help but ask, Sixth, why was Master so angry after he met with you? Amandla was embarrassed. He kept switching topic. Sha Danan, on the other hand, was holding his laughter, making his face look weird. Then, Hidi finally couldn't help it. She asked, Dad, Sixth finally came back, why are you so mad at him? Amandla slightly raised his head and looked at Tian Boli's. Tian Boli's stared back at him and Amandla was forced to lower his head again. Tian Boli's snorted. Sixth, why don't you show them your esper? Amandla's mouth opened wide, could not say a word. Then he looked toward Saran, but Saran smiled. Bishu, let them see it, let them know what made your master so mad. Amandla knew he couldn't avoid it. He slowly took his bag and took out a few items and let them lay on the table. Everyone did not even blink, afraid to miss some important details. It was extremely quiet in the dining hall. On the table, there were 3 wood-made cubes with a half-a fist size. It's white all over with dots carved on it. They were 3 dice. Everyone was stunned. Then, everyone laughed. Amandla blushed. Tian Boli's angrily said, rotten wood cannot be craved. Saran, however, shook her head and smiled. It doesn't matter, it's not really important. Let it be. The esper is for him to use anyway. Tian Boli stared at Amandla, then said to Saran, how do you know he is not using it to scam people? Amandla was surprised, quickly said, Master, Xiniang, disciple would never do such a dirty, shameful thing. It's just because I found a 1,000-year-old 3-bead tree at Kai Shui Lake south of here. The tree is very spiritual, so I used it to craft 3 dice. I didn't realize. Tian Boli's was still angry, said, now you are happy, right? HMPH, now great, you've crafted a gambling tool. At the 7 Peaks tournament, which is just a month away, when you show up on the stage with this thing, will I be able to save face? Amandla did not dare to speak. Saran shook her head, said quietly, Bui, it is the thing he likes. Don't force him. You still remember Vanti Shishong? Tian Boli suddenly was shocked and turned to Saran. Saran sighed, told Amandla, Bishu, you know your master and I never forced you to craft a sword like the Shishongs of the other houses. Esper, however, is always of a major concern. You need to act accordingly. Amandla looked at Tian Boli's again and saw his master was still unhappy. He did not dare to speak much, so he nodded, yes, yes. Saran looked at her husband again, then said to everyone, time passed so quickly. Next month is already 7 Peaks tournament. At that time, we will all go to the main house Peak of Widow. Make sure to be prepared. Then, her beautiful, gentle face became serious. Rapidly she said, this time, do not let me and your master be disappointed, get it? Everyone immediately answered, yes. Xiniang. A weak voice appeared within the response of the disciples. It was Sha Danan. Saran frowned, asked, what is it, Xiao Fan? Sha Danan cautiously said, you mean I will be going, too? Saran was startled, then looked at Tian Boli's. She smiled, yes, aren't you a member of Bamboo Peak? Sha Danan cheered with Amandla. He was so happy that he ignored what Tien Bolis said. There are 9 spots, anyway. Even if we give one to an idiot, still one is wasted. At nightfall, Sha Danan went back to his room. Big Yella and Ash were already resting on Sha Danan's bed. 1.5 years ago, because Big Yella became friends with Ash, it also moved to Sha Danan's bedroom. At first, Tien Bolis was very worried because he couldn't find his dog. Then, after he found out what happened, he snorted and left. Sha Danan saw Tien Bolis didn't say anything, so he didn't drive Big Yella away. Actually, it was a case of being unable to drive Big Yella away. Big Yella took half of the bed, Ash took half of the other half. It is obvious how the owner felt. As time passed, however, Sha Danan got used to it and did not complain about sleeping with Big Yella and Ash anymore. That night, Sha Danan's mood was great. He sat next to the table and saw Big Yella lazily laying on the bed. Ash took the black fire stick from the kitchen again and used it to rub Big Yella's body. He felt Ash was really interested in this fire stick. But now he didn't want to bother thinking about it. His heart was filled with happiness that his master allowed him to go to Seven Peaks tournament. Sha Danan looked toward the monkey and dog, but it seemed like he was talking to thin air. Look, I get a chance to join Seven Peaks tournament. That is just great. Master is really broad-minded. Even though I am so stupid, he is allowing me to come and learn. Maybe I can meet Jingyu there. Then, he paused and quietly spoke to himself, but going on the platform and dueling will just bring shame to Master. Anyway, if it's meant to be, then let it be. Big Yella, Ash, am I right? Creak creak, Sha Danan raised his head. Ash put all his thought into Big Yella's fur and catching fleas. Only screamed a few times in response to answer him. Big Yella is even more direct. Its dog ears folded and ignored him. Stupid dog, Sha Danan angrily called out. Ash threw the fire stick at him. He dodged it and the fire stick bounced on the table and landed on the ground. Creak creak, bark bark, the dog and monkey's sound became symphony. Sha Danan made a face toward the 2 animals. He sat down, then his mind came up with the image of Kevern in Bamboo Peak 2 years ago. Form wall of ice, Sha Danan quietly said. When he didn't practice, it was fine, however, after he did, it became worse. He began to realize the far distance between himself and Kevern. Then, he thought of that night. Hidi was sitting in this room next to the light. Those soft, glowing eyes. His heart felt like being stabbed by needle. The fire stick quietly lay quietly on the ground. Sha Danan suddenly felt himself to be much like the fire stick, so lonely, laying on the ground alone. Alas, he sighed, imagining if he could reach that level of cultivation. Then, a totally relaxed, uncaring movement. He did his first, navigate object, movement. He waved his hand toward the fire stick. That moment felt like an eternity. Sha Danan was very normal, with no disappointment and acceptance of his failure. Then, he saw the fire stick moved a little. Just that little bit, slight movement, seemed like awakening from a long sleep. It moved. Rotten wood cannot be craved mean. No matter what you do to a rotten wood, they cannot become better. Chapter 17, Attend. That morning, everyone was excited for the Seven Peaks tournament. The disciples were especially excited. Every one of them had a smile on their face. Although there would be some nervousness, they all got covered by excitement. Within them, only Da Shishang Xavion, 2nd Wuduya, 3rd Zheng Dali and 4th Hidaji had participated in the previous tournament. 5th Ludaxin and 6th Amandla were new students and, of course, Sha Danan and Hidi, too, had never been there. It only took place every 60 years. As Tien Bolis and Saran were making the final preparations, Hidi pestered Xavion, who was the most experienced. Da Shishang, is it really that many faction members attending Seven Peaks tournament? Xavion said, correct, Seven Peaks tournament is the most important event in our faction. Anyone who can represent their house in the tournament is a talented student. Not to mention the exciting battle scene. 4th Hidaji heard them talking and came over. He winked at Hidi, smiled. Xiao Shimei, you may not know, actually Da Shishang still has something he did not tell you. Hidi asked. Ah. What is it, 4th Shishang? Hidaji smiled, being the winner and standing in the middle of the platform while listening to the applause of hundreds of people. This pride cannot be escaped. But, if a young beautiful Shimei from the other houses admired and cheered for Da Shishang, isn't it a more joyful occurrence in one's life? Then, he turned and asked Xavion, Da Shishang, am I right? Xavion blushed. Hidi was curious, asked, Da Shishang, why is your face red? Xavion shook his head hard, kept on murmuring, no, my face didn't turn red. Hidaji coughed and saw everyone had gathered around him. Sha Danan and Amandla were puzzled, but Wu Duya and Zheng Dali were both smiling. So Hidaji said, oh, second Shishang and third Shishang are both here. I have a bad memory these days. I think it was at the previous tournament, when Da Shishang won twice in a row and entered the third round, there was a young, pretty Shimei. I forgot her name. Wu Duya quickly said, I can't remember it clearly. I think she is a Shimei from Bamboo Heights. Her face is extremely pretty. But the name? Zheng Dali said, we all forgot her name. But we can still remember she clapped her hands the loudest, and flirted with Da Shishang. Everyone laughed. Hidi began interrogating, Da Shishang, who is the Shiji who was being so nice to you? Xavion was embarrassed. He stared at Hidaji and hollowly smiled, no such thing. Don't listen to your fourth Shishang. Bamboo Heights Bako Shimei was just cheering for me because of Xiniang. Hidaji immediately said, Da Shishang, that's odd. Me, second and third Shishangs all forgot her name. How come you recalled her name so fast? But the kindness of Bako Shiji to Da Shishang is. Everyone laughed. Xavion realized he said it wrong. He knew Hidaji was an expert in battles of wits. The more he said the more mistakes there will be. He snorted and ignored them. Stupid people. I am going to check if Master and Xiniang is ready yet. Hidi still wanted to ask, but Xavion ran away fast like the wind. So, she could only ask Hidaji. Her eyes were filled with excitement. Fourth Shishang, tell me, what does Bako Shiji look like? Hidaji said, Xiao Shimei, aren't you always going to Bamboo Height to visit Master Shuiyu with Xiniang? How come you never saw Bako Shiji? She is Master Shuiyu's favorite student. Hidi shook her head. Mom and I went directly to Master Shuiyu when we went to Bamboo Height. We rarely met any Shiji there. Come on, tell me. Hidaji smiled. No need to hurry. Today, when we go to main house's Peak of Widows, you will see her, most likely. Hidi rolled her eyes, seemed like she realized something. Oh, no wonder why Da Shishang was so excited today, he had some evil thought in his head. Everyone was confused, then when they realized, they all laughed. Hidi herself also laughed. The little nervousness was gone. She looked around and saw everyone had a smile on their face. But when she looked at Sha Danan, she was surprised. Even though Sha Danan had a smile on his face, Hidi could sense that Sha Danan was lost in thought. Hidi pulled Sha Danan aside, quietly asked, Xiao Fan, you have any trouble? Sha Danan was startled. His right hand touched his chest, then finally responded, I am fine, Shiji. Hidi directly asked, what is it? Let me see. Sha Danan hesitated for a moment, then took out an item and let Hidi see it. Hidi was surprised, asked, why would you bring this black fire stick with you? Sha Danan looked at Heidi's surprised face. He mumbled, Master's kindness allowed me to participate in the Seven Peaks tournament. Hidi understood what Sha Danan was saying. She couldn't hold in her laughter. That's why. You bring this fire stick to participate in Seven Peaks tournament. Jadeon's 2000-year history, 6th Shishang's gambling dice is already weird enough. Can't imagine you really bring this fire stick too. It's killing me. Disciples heard Heidi's laughter and came to see what happened. They laughed after they heard the reason. Sha Danan saw Shishangs and Shiji next to him were smiling and happy, but anger arose in his heart. The anger in his heart was just an instant, however, it was so intense that it almost made Sha Danan stop breathing. He lowered his head and held the ugly fire stick tight. The familiar chill spread to his palm. Xiao Fan. Hidi suddenly took back her smile. I am sorry. Sha Danan was shaken. He raised his head. Hidi said, I was planning to give you an esper so you won't become a joke within our faction. But Mom forced me to practice too much, I forgot about it. Sha Danan shook his head, said, Shiji, cultivating is more important. You don't need to worry about me. Hidi patted his shoulder, smiled, doesn't matter anyway, everyone knows your limits. This time is just a chance for you to learn. She lowered her voice. If anyone is giving you a hard time, you have to tell me, HMPH, and I shall help you get back at them. Sha Danan looked at Heidi's gentle eyes. He wouldn't doubt her promise. He could also feel the kindness from other people around him, however, his emotion was still unstable. What is it, that burning inside of his heart like raging fire, making it difficult for him to breathe? Hidi was still grinning. She patted her favorite Xiao Shidi's shoulder. She whispered, "Let me tell you. There are a lot of fun places in Peak of Widows. This time, we sneak out and go there, sound good?" Sha Danan suddenly didn't want to look at her beautiful face. He lowered his head. His mind was sweet and frustrated. He said, "Yes, Shiji." Hidaji suddenly said from behind them, "Master and Xiniang are here." They turned and saw Tien Bolis and Surin were coming out from Hall of Quietude. Tien Bolis wore a sky-blue robe. His face looked serious. If not for his fat belly and short body, he would look more like an admirable master. Surin wore a light green dress and a jade flower in her hair. Xavion followed behind them. His face looked as serious as it could be. But as other disciples saw him coming, their face was working hard not to smile. Following behind Xavion were Big Yella and Ash. Ash was already used to sitting on Big Yella's back. When Ash saw Sha Danan, it screamed, "Creak creak," and jumped on Sha Danan's shoulder. Tien Bolis looked at each disciple and nodded, "Let's go." He waved his right arm. Red light flashed in the middle of his palm. His famous esper, Flame Spirit, appeared. Just when Tien Bolis was about to step forward, his pants got pulled on by someone. It was Big Yella. It kept swinging its head and tail, and its mouth moaned. Its dog eyes stared at Tien Bolis. Tien Bolis hesitated and murmured, but still waved his sleeve and rolled up Big Yella and brought Big Yella to Flame Spirit. Tien Bolis stood on Flame Spirit and was the first to fly away. Surin shook her head, smiled, "Come." Then she paused, spoke to Xavion, "Darren, Xiaofan's skill isn't strong enough. You carry him." Xavion nodded. "Yes." Surin nodded. Green light flashed and brought her to the sky and followed Tien Bolis, red light. Among the Bamboo Peak's disciples, Wu Duya, Zheng Dali, Ludaxin's cultivation had not yet reached level 4 and could not use an esper. Sha Danan rode with Xavion while the other three rode with Hidaji, Amandla and Hidi. Heidi's esper was Phoenix Soul. Hidaji's esper was Landscape Brush, really fitting his bookworm personality. However, the most comical was Amandla's Gambling Dice esper. Once it was activated, white light flashed and the dice enlarged 10 times of its size, circled around in mid-air. If comparing the gambling tools of this earth, the winner would be here. Fifth Ludaxin worriedly looked at Amandla's dice, asked, "Sixth, that thing won't fall out of the sky, right?" Amandla grinned. "Fifth Shishong, let's have a bet. If it falls from the sky, you win, then I." Ludaxin said, "Will I dare to win this bet, then?" Amandla was startled. "Oh, that's right." Xavion walked in front of Sha Danan, smiled, "Xiaofan, are you ready?" Just when Sha Danan was about to nod, Ash screamed from his shoulder. They were surprised. Ash pointed to the sky, then pointed to itself. Sha Danan was startled. "You want to come too?" Ash grinned. Sha Danan hesitated for a moment, then looked at Xavion. Xavion thought for a while, then smiled. "Master brought Big Yella anyway, let's bring Ash there too." Sha Danan was glad. He nodded. Ash was even more excited. Xavion turned to the others, said, "Let us get going too, or else Master will be mad if we are late." They answered and left with their esper. Hidi told Sha Danan before she departed, "Be careful, hold Shishong tight." Sha Danan nodded, said, "I know, Shiji." Hidi smiled. Her hand pointed. Phoenix Soul rose and carried her to the sky. Xavion drew out his esper, Ten Tiger. He was Bamboo Peak's oldest disciple. Although his Shittus crafted different espers, he still crafted a sword. Ten Tiger was yellow all over, 4 feet long and 2 inches wide. It was slightly larger than the average sword. Sadly, an esper's strength could not be determined by size. Sha Danan had experience with riding Heidi's Phoenix Soul. So, when Xavion pulled Sha Danan to 10 tigers, he wasn't surprised. But Ash, on the other hand, had held Sha Danan's head tightly. Xavion lightly smiled. "Xiao Shidi, here we go." Then, his right hand pointed at the sky. 10 tigers roared. The sword ascended 3 feet. Sha Danan grabbed Xavion's back. The sword tip slowly raised at about a 70-degree angle. Sha Danan needed to rely on Xavion in order to not fall. Then, 10 tigers charged into the sky. Sha Danan held Xavion tightly. Although he was nervous, he didn't want to close his eyes. He saw Bamboo Peak was getting further and further away from him. Suddenly, everything in front of him turned to white. He was inside of thick clouds and unable to see anything. Clouds were surrounding him. The wind blew against his face, feeling like it cut. Sha Danan's body was shaking. Its nervousness, its excitement, flying within sky and clouds, a dream had become true. Within the sea of clouds, flying for some time now, just as Sha Danan's emotions became settled, there was another surprise waiting for him. 10 tigers had brought them out of the sea of clouds. The blue sky, as blue as a deep ocean, so pure and boundless. When they came out from the clouds, the cloud beneath their feet seemed like a water spray, following them, creating long, thin cloud trails. Like the waves in the sea, the thin cloud trail slowly descended back to the sea of clouds. Xavion finally lay the sword flat after they were 300 yards above the clouds. They headed straight to Peak of Widows. The mountain peak stood tall and magnificent. There was the ringing of bells echoing from the peak. Peak of Widows looked like a stairway to heaven. Sha Danan held his breath, as he saw countless amounts of colorful lights near the mountain peak. The closer to Peak of Widows, the more concentrated the lights were. Sha Danan knew those were the light of disciples, espers. Due to the 5 elements, they came with different colors, very pretty. The lights like stone rain rushed toward the mountain peak. Sha Danan and Xavion with 10 tigers soon joined into the colorful river of light. Xavion and Sha Danan landed on a huge square. Once they landed, Ash looked around and jumped off of Sha Danan's shoulder. It jumped around in the square. Sha Danan did not care about it. He saw the white jade fence. This place was familiar to Sha Danan. He remembered this place was Jadon's 6th scene, Cloud Sea. He hadn't seen it for 5 years, however, it was exactly the same without any changes. It was still beautiful. Today was just slightly more crowded than usual. The square was very crowded. The disciples attending 7 Peaks tournament seemed to be temporarily staying here. There was approximately a few hundred people. Most people wore Jadon clothing. Many were the younger generation. Jadon had been cultivating many young disciples. Although there were a few hundred people in the square still seemed spacious. Xavion searched through the crowd. Suddenly a bright sound called, "Da Shishang, we are over here." Sha Danan and Xavion looked toward the direction where the call came from. It was from the Bamboo Peak's disciples. They were standing next to one of the forges in the middle. Hidi was waving to them. Xavion answered and walked toward them with Sha Danan. Sha Danan looked around and saw the disciples from other houses were standing in groups. They were happily chatting. They all seemed to be looking forward to the tournament. Hidaji was the first one to ask, "Da Shishang, was the trip all right?" Xavion smiled. "It's not the first time coming here, what could happen?" Hidi looked at Sha Danan, smiled, "Xiao Fan, the scene along the way is fine." Sha Danan recalled the magnificent scene of the mountain peak in the sky, said, "Very beautiful." Hidi giggled, patted his shoulder, said, "Try harder in cultivation. When you craft your esper and learn how to fly, you can go into the sky and see as much as you wish." Sha Danan didn't answer, instead he smiled and nodded. Xavion looked around and asked Hidaji, "Fourth Shidi, where are Master and Xiniang?" Hidaji said, "We followed Master and Xiniang to here, then the head house's brother lead Master and Xiniang to Crystal Hall. They said it's 7 houses Master's meeting. Discussing some of the tournament's details. Master ordered us to stay here and wait for him." Xavion nodded, then he waved his hand to gather his Shidi around him. He looked around and whispered, "I have seen many new faces from other houses. You guys were here earlier, get any information?" Hidaji shook his head. "I also have the same feeling. It seems like the other houses have recruited many new people." Second Wuduya looked around. "There are many new people. But, I guess, when we go on the stage tomorrow, most likely we will be facing the previous cultivated Shishangs. They are the ones who have the experience." Xavion suddenly sighed. "Second Shidi, it may not be so. Do you still remember the young disciple Bay from Dragon Head Peak 2 years ago?" Wuduya was startled, then everyone was silent. They looked at each other in the eyes, nobody said a word. Sha Danan had a complicated feeling pass by. It was gladness, admiration and also jealousy. "What can trash do?" someone suddenly said. Everyone was surprised. That was Hidi. Her cheeks began to turn pink, her eyes opened wide, angrily said, "If he doesn't come to the tournament, it will be fine. However, if he does, the best will be meeting me on the stage, at that time we will see who will be the victor." Bamboo Peak's disciples looked at each other. Amandla was smart, reacted to it quickly. He smiled. Xiao Shimei is right. If it really happens, heh, Shishongs, let's have a bet on who is going to win. Get lost. Fifth Ludaxin kicked him away. Xavion smiled. Just when he was about to say something, someone lightly coughed from behind him. A lady softly said, Song Shishong, long time no see. Xavion seemed to receive a heavy blow. Chapter 18, Come Across. Xavion was startled. The call was like the celestial melody within his ears. When he woke up, he turned around like lightning and saw 5 to 6 female disciples were standing there. From their clothing, it appeared that they were from Bamboo Height, the house that only accept females. A beautiful lady was in the front facing them. A smile was on her face. Sha Danan wanted to ask which house the Shijis were from, but when he turned around and saw Wuduya, Zheng Dali and Hidaji, each had an evil smile on their faces. Then he turned to Xavion and saw his face had a silly smile and stunned look. It appeared that he could not find the right word to say. Sha Danan thought for a moment, and knew who that lady was. Hidaji and others were standing there waiting for a show, however, Xavion was just standing there with a dumb look on his face. Not only the Bamboo Peak disciples couldn't take it, even the Bamboo Height disciples were giggling. The lady blushed slightly, said softly, Song Shishong. Xavion still hadn't reacted. Hidaji was impatient, said, Ha ha, Bako Shiji. We haven't seen each other for many years. How are you? Bako turned her eyes at him for a moment, smiled, You are Hidaji, he Shishong. Hidaji nodded, It's me. Wen Shiji has a good memory. We only met once 60 years ago and still you remember me. Bako smiled. He Shishong was fighting against a powerful opponent in the last duel and showed us your surprising skill. Of course I will remember. Hidaji blushed. At the previous 7 Peaks tournament, he had faced a powerful opponent from Peak of Widows during the first round. Even though he tried his best, he still lost. But he just smiled. Let's not mention about my past history. My cultivation level will never be able to match Wen Shiji and our Da Shishong. By the way, after the tournament, our Da Shishong was often thinking about you. Bako's face flushed slightly, but did not reply. She peeped at Xavion. The Shimeis behind her were already laughing. Xavion used to be a brave fellow, now, he looked like a shy young man. He quickly answered, No, when did I often? What? A young lady behind Bako cut in before Xavion finished. Does that mean you did not miss our Bako Shiji? Xavion peeped at Bako. Bako was also looking at him. Her eyes did not blink. He blurted out, No, I did miss her. Ha, every one of Bamboo Peak and Bamboo Height disciples laughed. Especially the girls behind Bako who laughed the loudest, causing disciples from other houses to look toward them. Hidaji waited for the laughter to be gone, then he told the Bamboo Heights ladies, Shijis, actually our Da Shishong didn't mean that he does not miss Bako Shiji, it's not just thinking about her often. Then what is it? Someone from Bamboo Height asked. Hidaji looked at her and smiled. He was just thinking about her every quarter of an hour, saying her name every quarter of an hour. So, that's why he said he did not think about her often. Often also means every hour in Chinese. Everyone laughed. Xavion glared at Hidaji. He looked at Bako and found that she wasn't mad. He was relieved and murmured, Wen Shimei, they were just joking, don't listen to them. Bako smiled, then turned around and held her Shimei who laughed so hard that she almost fell. After that, she turned back and asked, How does your heart feel? Xavion kept saying, I, but couldn't finish his thoughts. Looking at his face, the other girls laughed again. Bako shook her head and glared at him and ignored him. She walked to Hidi, held her hand, looked at her face, asked, You are Ling Shimei. Hidi was surprised, Yes. Wen Shiji, how do you know me? Bako smiled. You often came to our Bamboo Height visiting master with Su Shishu. We already know you, have not seen you for a number of years, you have grown more beautiful. Hidi held Bako's hand, smiled, How can I ever be able to compare to Bako Shiji's beauty? Then she whispered, My Da Shishong was enchanted by you. Bako peeped at Xavion. Xavion immediately had a silly smile on his face. She shook her head, quietly said, Your Da Shishong really is a wood brain. Hidi chuckled. Bako took Hidi to the Bamboo Height disciples. Laughter often came from the girls. They all ignored Xavion and the others now. Xavion wanted to speak with Bako, but did not know what to say, so all he did is stand in the same spot. Even Sha Danan shook his head. Amandla suddenly said, "Huh, a lot of people have arrived." Sha Danan was curious. He turned and was shocked to see about 30 people were coming toward them. Everyone was in white clothes. Everyone looked proud and handsome. The first person was Kevern. Kevern. Sha Danan stared at them. He repeated his name again and again. Fourth Shishong Hidaji suddenly laughed. Dragon Head Peak was expected to have such a significant number. Kevern also saw the Bamboo Peak disciples. He quickly walked toward them. The others followed. He held his hands in front of himself, saluted, "Song Shishong, we meet again." Xavion did not want to be impolite. He returned the salute. "Chi Shishong, you have come as well. I wonder, are you going to join the tournament?" Kevern smiled. "I do not want to come. But Master said I still need practice for my cultivation, and he ordered me to join, so I took a spot." Xavion nodded. "That's great. With the talent of Chi Shishong, victory must be yours." Kevern shook his head, modestly said, "Song Shishong has flattered me." When those two were talking, Sha Danan's eyes searched through the disciples behind Kevern. After a moment, Bei's eyes, which were also searching for him, met with Sha Danan's. They came out from the crowd and held each other's hand. There were thousands of words to say, but they couldn't say anything all of a sudden. A while later, Bei asked, "Xiao Fan, you joined this tournament?" Sha Danan nodded, smiled, "Yes, Master was being very kind to me. He let me come with." "What about you?" Bei said. "I joined this tournament too." "HMPH, what's so great about your shorty master? 2 years ago I came to your place and your master treated you in such a way." Sha Danan quickly said, "No, he is not like that normally. That day he was just in a bad mood." Bei realized that it's a rare chance to meet with his best friend and did not want to ruin it with this silly topic. He quickly switched the topic, smiled, "You brat, I haven't seen you for 2 years, you have grown so tall." Sha Danan punched him, grinned, "What, only you are allowed to grow and I'm not?" Bei laughed. They could talk about anything they wanted since there were no elders nearby and the other people did not bother them. Sha Danan unintentionally turned around and saw Kevern was greeting the ladies. A strange pain struck at Sha Danan's heart, caused his face to change. Bei was surprised. "What is it, Xiao Fan?" Sha Danan shook his head, forced himself to smile, "Nothing." His eyes were still fixed on Kevern. Kevern was in front of Hidi and Bako Alred. He greeted Hidi first. "Tian Shimei, still remember me?" Hidi was chatting with Bako and the other Bamboo Heights female disciples. All of a sudden, she saw Kevern appeared in front of her. She blushed, her voice turned very low, "Yes, hello Chi Shishong." Heidi's pink face and watery eyes, this beautiful face reflected in Sha Danan's eyes, felt like a knife had sliced through his heart. "Xiao Fan, what's wrong? Why does your face look so pale?" Bei was puzzled, he was concerned. "Are you ill?" Nothing, I am fine," Sha Danan said quietly. Bako's mind was shaped. She looked at the reaction of Hidi and understood what happened. She asked Kevern directly, "Chi Shishong, why do you only recognize Tian Shimei? So the Bamboo Heights Shimei are not worthy enough for you to remember?" After that all the girls behind her began to ask. Kevern immediately responded, "What do you mean when Shiji? How could I dare to be impolite to Bamboo Heights Shiji?" Bako chuckled. "Chi Shishong joined Seven Peaks tournament again, surely you are determined to win." Kevern's eyes brightened, said, "At the previous tournament, Wen Shiji had passed 3 rounds, but unfortunately lost to a new, Xiao Shishong. After 60 years of practice, plus Master Shui Yu's careful teaching. With the title of Bamboo Heights Best Student, you also seem to want to shoot for the champion spot of the tournament." Bako smiled. No way, how could I dare to compete against Chi Shishong? As for the title of Bamboo Heights Best Student, I am not really fit for it." Kevern frowned. "Wen Shiji, you are too modest." Bako smiled. "Nope, Master Shui Yu's knowledge is uncomparable. My potential is too dull, can't get a secret teaching from her senior. My house has another talented Shimei, Chi Shishong, you need to be careful." Kevern was excited, but his face was still smiling. "That's even better. With the ability to defeat Wen Shiji, that person must be a brilliant prodigy. I will be looking forward to meeting her." Bako chuckled and nodded. Then she pulled Hidi to the side. At that time, a whistle came from the sky. The sound was louder than thunder. A few hundred Jadon disciples looked above them. A red light arrived. Now they could see a Taoist from Peak of Widows was standing on top of a red sword. He announced, "All Shishangs, the heads of the houses and faction have delivered orders. All Shishangs who are participating in Seven Peaks tournament, please come to Crystal Hall." A disturbance within the few hundred Jadon disciples lasted a while. Then, some people came out and walked to the other side of the square. Sha Danan thought the highly cultivated disciples would fly there directly. But, it seems no one had the intention to do it, everyone just walked. He walked with Bei. Looking around he saw Hidi was walking with Bako and the other Bamboo Height disciples. Xavion and other Bamboo Peak disciples followed behind them. As for the Dragon Head Peak, about 7 or 8 people came out from the crowd, but they walked in the other direction. They greeted the other disciples from other houses. Kevin especially, he was very familiar with the disciples' names. Everyone smiled at him. Qi Shishang is very good at making friends. Noticing Sha Danan kept looking at Kevin, Bei said, "He is highly cultivated, deeply trusted by Master Vasp Kalo. Everyone respects him." Sha Danan nodded slowly, expressionless. At the end of the square, it was one of the Jadon 6 scenes, Rainbow Bridge. 5 years ago, Sha Danan and Bei had walked past here after they were saved. Now they revisited this place again, their minds were mixing with different types of feeling. Stepping on such superb craftsmanship, seeing the clear water running down at the sides of the bridge and still reflecting the 7 colors of the rainbow, the ignorant children from 5 years ago had now become Jadon's disciple. They walked at the rear of the crowd. Bei suddenly sighed. 5 years. Sha Danan remained silent and just kept walking. The sight before him was the same as that day. As they got higher up on Rainbow Bridge, the clouds sank below them. The clear blue sky lay above their heads. "Why don't you fly up there?" Sha Danan asked suddenly. Bei was a little surprised. "You don't know that disciples are forbidden to fly near Crystal Hall. Kevin told me it is to respect the head, so we need to walk in a holy place like Crystal Hall. Also, when Master Jadon founded Jadon clan, for protection purposes, he set up an extremely powerful array at Peak of Widows called Regenesis Sword Array. Any who dare to fly above Peak of Widows will get slain by Regenesis Sword Array." Sha Danan was surprised. "So that's why even the skilled disciples don't fly in here. Is that Regenesis Sword Array really that powerful?" Bei looked at the mountain peak before him, said, "I haven't seen it either, however, it must be powerful. From what I heard, Regenesis Sword Array was passed down by Master Jadon and 1,000 years ago Master Jade Leaf improved the power of it. With that, no one ever dared to come to Mount Jadon and harass us." Sha Danan also looked at the magnificent mountain peak, said, "Amazing." As they talked, they walked across Rainbow Bridge with other people. Sha Danan looked at those people. There were about 60 people. Majority of them were male, about 13 or so were female. Most of the females were wearing bamboo height dresses. But regardless of male or female, they were all filled with spirit. Male were dignified and handsome, female were beautiful and polite. No matter who see them, they would say Jadon had worthy successors and bright future. After Rainbow Bridge, it was the Jadon spiritual beast protector, Water Kiran's pond. Unlike 5 years ago, the ancient beast, Master Spirit, didn't hide in the pond this time, but already lay next to the pond. The lazy appearance of it, however, had no difference compared to 5 years ago. When the Jadon disciples got off of Rainbow Bridge, they bowed to the enormous beast, then went to the steps of Crystal Hall. Sha Danan and Bei followed behind them. Bei whispered to Sha Danan, "Do you still remember our first time here?" Sha Danan nodded. "Remember. Got myself soaked. But that doesn't really matter. Seeing that large monster scared me to death." Bei smiled. "Yup, when did we ever see such a thing while we were still in Grass Temple Village? I thought the world's largest animal was the bear from Mount Jadon." Sha Danan burst into laughter. Everyone turned and looked at Sha Danan. Sha Danan immediately settled down. Bei was also surprised. He coughed twice. His face was slightly red. The other people looked at each other, then continued walking. Sha Danan was relieved. He turned to Bei. They looked at each other in the eyes and smiled. Sha Danan and Bei walked down from Rainbow Bridge, arrived at the green pond. They bowed to the Water Kiran. The Water Kiran, however, was sleeping since the beginning, it didn't react to anyone. The snoring was loud as thunder. Surely it didn't know the 2 young Jadons had bowed to it. Sha Danan and Bei didn't expect Water Kiran to react anyway. They walked toward the steps. Sha Danan said, Jing Yu, last time you came to Bamboo Peak in such a hurry. I didn't have time to congratulate you on your level of cultivation. Bei smiled. It's thanks to Master Vasp Kalo and all Shishang's teaching. Then he paused, voice grew deeper. Actually the first few years when I practiced, I always thought of the bloody bodies in Grass Temple Village, so I pushed myself to work harder, hoping one day I can attain vengeance for our parents and friends. Sha Danan's heart grew sour. He held out his hand and patted his shoulder. Bei settled his emotions, then grinned. Okay, let's not talk about the past. What about your cultivation? Sha Danan shook his head. You know I was not as smart as you when we were still young. These years in Bamboo Peak, Master and Shishangs had treated me well. But I'm too stupid, very slow in progress. I really let them down. Bei snorted. You are not stupid. I think it's most likely because your shorty master purposely made things difficult for you, not teaching you the true Jadon incantations. Sha Danan didn't know the conflict 2 years ago still caused Bei to hate Tien Bolis. He smiled. Can't be. My master is not that kind of person. Anyway, let's not talk about me. Is your Esper still, Dragon Slayer? Bei nodded, smiled. That divine sword is Dragon Head Peak's most valuable treasure. Master handed me this sword. Besides its might strength, it is always very spiritual. Helped me a lot in cultivation. Sha Danan was envious, even his face had shown it. That's great. Bei asked him back. What about you, Xiao Fan, you have any Esper? Sha Danan was startled. He put his hand on his chest and touched the black fire stick. A chill slightly rose in his palm. No, he quietly said. My cultivation is not high enough to use an Esper yet. Bei didn't have any reactio to it, clearly he had already expected this answer. He comforted Sha Danan. It doesn't matter, Xiao Fan. As long as you work hard, you will be successful at last. We are still young yet, just pretend this is a chance to learn. Sha Danan's lips moved, looked at his old friend's kind face, listened to his friendly words, but in Sha Danan's heart, he didn't feel any pleasure. To learn, everyone thought he came here to learn. A sudden anger rose in his heart, like a fire wad burning, but extinguished a moment later. He lowered his head, didn't say anything, not even an idea to blame his friend, for he found he himself also agreed with what his friend just said. Like an answer in his heart, the fire stick in his clothes reacted. A coldness suddenly rose from his palm to his shoulder. Sha Danan was surprised, then he found that his feeling did no damage to his body. The coolness was quite comfortable. He looked at Bei and found he didn't notice the change. Just when Sha Danan felt relieved, suddenly, a deafening roar burst behind them. Sha Danan, and even the cultivated Bei, also felt the shock in their ears. Their ears kept ringing. The Jadon disciples also turned around and checked what was going on. Everyone was bewildered to find such a weird roar in the holy place of Jadon. They turned, and after a look, everyone was frightened by what they saw. Chapter 19. Drop Heart. Near the green pond, the sleeping water Kirin was suddenly awakened. Aggressively it turned its head. Its eyes burned with immeasurable hatred. The hair on its back stood on end. Opening its huge jaw and baring the 2 long fangs, it was preparing to attack. Its target was the Jadon disciples. Water Kirin was an ancient spiritual beast. The blue sky had darkened. As it took its first step, the quiet mountain wind turned into fierce howling gusts, passing through Peak of Widows. The water in the pond also changed. Previously the water had been as flat as a mirror, now the water was whirling at high speed forming a deep vortex. From the vortex, a pillar of water rose into the sky. The pillar was about 3 yards thick, circling in mid-air. Then, seeming as though it had received some sort of command, the water pillar thundered down in front of Water Kirin. At that time, every Jadon, including the highly cultivated Kevern, could not keep calm. Some had even grown pale and begun shaking. The reason why Water Kirin was able to be a great helper to Master Jade Leaf and had become the protector of Jadon had shown. Within the 5 elements, metal, wood, water, fire and earth, Water Kirin was the legend of all spiritual water beasts. Without any assistance it could control the water and form a water pillar of such size. It didn't even appear to be hard work. The spirit strength was far stronger than that of a normal cultivator. Within Jadon, only a few could do that with the help of an Esper. Jadon disciples bore witness to the rage of Water Kirin that had not shown for thousands of years. Everyone was stunned. Water Kirin kept on roaring. Its eyes filled with anger as though it felt something it really hated and was prepared to fight to the death. The water pillar became faster and faster. Then, the water pillar struck at the Jade disciples. Just at that critical moment, a call came from the sky, "Master Spirit, please calm down." A dark green figure arrived and stood between the disciples and Water Kiran. It was the head of Jade, Master Doyal Shen. He had not changed in the past 5 years. He frowned, also unclear about what happened to Water Kiran. The situation, however, is dire. The students behind him were the finest disciples. Within the water pillar, there were shadows of many kinds of beasts that had once been slain by Water Kiran. The souls were absorbed by Water Kiran into its body and did not allow the souls to reincarnate. Now, Water Kiran put these souls into the water pillar to increase its strength. Even with the divine strength of Master Doyal Shen, this water pillar may be difficult to deal with. Seeing the water pillar in front of him, Doyal Shen had nowhere to go. He took a deep breath, said, "God of compassion." He held up both hands. Quickly, but softly, he formed sword fingers and drew a Tai Chi in front of his chest. The Tai Chi circle glowed with white light. Then Doyal Shen turned around and allowed the Tai Chi to attach to the back of his dark green robe. Then the robe fell off into mid-air and stretched 10 times wider, protecting the disciples. The water pillar hit against the enlarged, dark green robe. The beasts inside the water pillar roared furiously. Under the heavy blow, the green robe was being pushed back a few yards immediately. On the stairs, the young Jade disciples felt strong wind blowing against them. Except for the few more highly cultivated disciples, none could stand firmly. They couldn't imagine what might happen to them if Master Doyal Shen did not help them block that strike. Sha Danan also fell. Bei wanted to help him, but he himself could not stand either. He fell to the other side. Sha Danan let go of the black fire stick and held out his hand seeking for support. He didn't notice the chill had left the moment he let go of the fire stick. In midair, Master Doyal Shen's face was solemn, prepared. Behind him, many people arrived. They were Master Vasp Kalo, Tien Bolis, Saran as well as other elders and heads. All of Jade's masters were here. Facing this situation, anyone would be fearful. The Water Kiran, however, had no sign of fear under the eyes of Jade's elders. The anger in his eyes had extinguished and been replaced by a look of confusion. The water pillar also shrank and fell on the floor, creating a large pool of water on the ground. Water Kiran grew quiet, but its enormous body still appeared fearsome. It ignored all the elders, who were standing in the sky. Its eyes searched through the Jade disciples. Its nose sniffed and could not find any smell. It repeated this weird movement for a few times, then gave up. Water Kiran shook its head, turned back and lay back down. Its eyes closed. After a moment, the sound of snores rang out. Everyone was speechless. Master Vasp Kalo was the first to put himself back together. Quietly he went and joined Master Doyal Shen, whispered, "Head Shishang, it is not good for the disciples to remain here for long." Doyal Shen realized, then nodded, "You bring our disciples up there first. I will check Master Spirit." Then, he dashed to Water Kiran. Vasp Kalo turned around and announced, "That was just a joke from Master Spirit. No need to worry everyone. Now, whoever is participating in 7 Peaks tournament, go to Crystal Hall in order." The disciples responded. They fell to rank. Their hearts knew that had definitely not been a joke. Following the group, Sha Danan and Bei entered the magnificent Crystal Hall. Standing in the hall, the memories from 5 years ago suddenly refreshed in Sha Danan's mind. "Jing Yu," Sha Danan said suddenly. "What?" Bei looked at Sha Danan. Sha Danan asked. "I suddenly remembered one thing. For these years, did you see Uncle Bozo?" Bei's face darkened, shook his head. "No. Today is also my first time returning to Peak of Widows. I asked Kevin Shishangs about Uncle Bozo 3 years ago. I heard he was still crazy, running around Peak of Widows all day. With the care of the Shishangs in Peak of Widows, however, he should be fine." Sha Danan was silent for a moment, said, "When the contest is over, I want to see him." "You want to come, too?" Bei nodded. "Yes, I also want to see him." All of a sudden, a green figure passed through the hall. Master Doyal Shen had returned. All Jadon elders' eyes landed on him. Master Vasp Kalo walked forth and asked, "Head Shishang, Master Spirit." Doyal Shen held up his hand and gave him a look. Master Vasp Kalo immediately stopped. Then Master Doyal Shen turned around as though nothing happened, kindly said to the Jadon disciples, "Everyone is here." "Good, good." Everyone bowed, said, "Greeting, head of faction." Master Doyal Shen smiled and returned to his seat. He looked toward Master Vaspkalo. Master Vaspkalo stepped forward, announced, "Everyone, you are all Jadon's best disciples. From the establishment of Jadon clan until now, it has already been 2,000 years. Jadon is the orthodox Taoists and the leader of the side of good. However, there is a saying, achievement comes from hard work, the fallen is a result of laziness. Also, go against the water current, flow backward if not advancing forward. Our faction's ancestors wanted to remain for the next generation and pass down the Seven Peaks tournament events. This is already our 20th session." Ah! The Jadon disciples were amazed. 20th, once ever 60 years, that meant it had already lasted 1,200 years in length. Master Vaspkalo was satisfied to see the reaction of the disciples, then said, "Today, under the leadership of head Shishong, Doyal Shen, Jadon became prosperous. Numerous of the young, talented disciples are in Jadon, so we specially increased the number to 64 people to prevent any regret of undiscovered talent." Sha Danan could not help but look at Tien Bolis. Tien Bolis sat next to Master Doyal Shen. His face was emotionless, but his eyes showed impatience. This change was said to be discussed between the heads of the houses, but in reality, it was just an agreement between Doyal Shen and Vaspkalo. Master Vaspkalo continued, "Because of the increased number, there are a few changes in sortation. Everyone look this way." He pointed Tati right side of the hall. There was a large, red, wooden box. On top of the box, there was a hole large enough for an arm to enter. In this red box, there are a total of 63 wax beads. Each has a piece of paper inside with a number written on it, 1 through 63. The conversation within the disciples roused out of control. Master Vaspkalo ignored them, continued, "After the sortation is completed, the contest will carry out based on the numbers, number 1 versus number 64, number 2 versus number 63 and so on. In the second round, the victor between number 1 and 64 will face the victor between number 2 and 63 and continue onward. This will take place until the final. Understand?" Jadon disciples were silent for a moment, then somebody shouted out, "Excuse me Vaspkalo Shishu, there are 64 people but why are there only 63 wax beads?" Master Vaspkalo appeared to be prepared for this question. He coughed. "The rule for this session is each house sends 9 representatives. Peak of Widows sends 1 extra. But, because only one house can send only 8 representatives, meaning one person is missing, results in 63 people." Everyone's eyes landed on head of Bamboo Peak, Tien Bolis. Though Tien Bolis' face was mad, he sat still in his seat. The Jadon's disciples discussed with each other. When the talking quieted down, Master Vaspkalo solemnly said, "But this is not difficult to work around. Within these 63 wax beads, whoever draws number 1 will be extremely lucky, because there is no number 64 as an opponent, so the first round there is no need to fight." Jadon disciples began another uproar. Jadon was a famous clan, the rules were very strict. This method of selection was ridiculous, but no one opposed it. Master Doyal Shen stood up. Everyone immediately quieted down. Master Doyal Shen nodded. "Then, let's begin." Everyone's eyes landed on the large, red, wooden box. First, 10 disciples from Peak of Widows went to the box, each put their hands into the box and took out a wax bead one by one. Dragon Head Peak's disciples followed. Bei said something to Sha Danan then followed the others to the red box. Sha Danan watched Bei's back for a moment, then moved his sight to the 7 masters and all the elders. Among these people, Master Doyal Shen, Master Vaspkalo, Master Tian Yun, Master Sheng Zhongliang and Master Seng Shuchong who Sha Danan met 5 years ago. Only the Taoist nun seated at the farthest right was unfamiliar to him. She was most likely the well-known Bamboo Heights master, Master Shui Yu. Sha Danan heard his Shishongs talk about this master often. He heard that Bamboo Height was the only house that exclusively adopted female disciples. Master Shui Yu's cultivation skill was very deep and well-known within Jadon. The Bamboo Height disciples often performed well in 7 Peaks tournament. Sha Danan looked at Master Shui Yu. Her age seemed to be around 30 like Saran. Her robe was moon white. Behind her, there were no elders, but a young female disciple. Her clothes were as white as snow, her face was very beautiful. A long sword was on her back. It was sky blue from the handle to the edge. Waves could be faintly seen flowing around the sword. The young lady felt his eyes. She turned suddenly and stared at him. Sha Danan felt as though he had been shocked by lightning. He was surprised and his face turned slightly red. The girl had no expression on her face, but her eyes were filled with scorn. She quickly lowered her head. Just at this embarrassing moment, someone pulled on his hand. It was Hidi. Xiao Fan, what are you doing? It is our turn to draw the wax bead. Sha Danan hurried. Yes, yes. Then he didn't look at Master Shui Yu any longer and followed Hidi to the red, wooden box. Only Bamboo Peak and Bamboo Height had not gone yet. Xavion and other Bamboo Peak disciples each picked up one wax bead from the box, then went back to the center of the hall. Everyone was busy checking their number from the bead. Bako and the other 7 disciples from Bamboo Height came out. The girl in white whispered something to Master Shui Yu, then Master Shui Yu nodded, go. The girl in white responded and walked with the Bamboo Height disciples and smiled to Bako. They took out the remaining 9 wax beads from the box. The disciples were checking their numbers. The masters of the houses also became nervous, hoping their disciple had drawn a lucky one. The paper with the number 1 written on it. Seemingly in response to the masters' feelings, words issued out from the Jadon disciples. Ah, I get 26. Mine is 33, what number is yours? Oh, mine is 47, I wonder what number is my opponent, let me see. After long while, no one said they got the precious number 1 paper. Vasp Kalo frowned, coughed then asked, who got the number 1 paper? His voice covered all the disciples' sounds. The hall was silent. Then, after a long time, within the crowd a small sound, with surprise and caution, seeming like he was not believing his luck, answered, reply to Vasp Kalo Shibo. It is here. Everybody looked at him. Sha Danan was standing there, with a piece of paper in his hand, looking at Tien Bolis, speaking timidly. Chapter 20. Trace of Evil. Instantly, everyone's eyes landed on this unremarkable Bamboo Peak disciple. Tien Bolis and Saran looked at each other. Saran smiled, nodded. The Bamboo Peak disciples surrounded him. Ludaxon hit heavily on Sha Danan's shoulder, said, you stinking brat, never knew you had such luck. Sha Danan scratched his head and stuck out his tongue. Amandla regretfully slapped his head. I should have put a bet on who may get the number 1 wax bead. Heh, must be unexpected. Get out. Hidi pushed him away, then told Sha Danan, Xiao Fan, you are going to be useless in round 2 anyway, give this to me. Sha Danan never expected his Shiji would say that. He was startled, then said, oh. He proceeded to hand the paper to her. Xavion said quietly, Xiao Shimei, don't mess around. Hidi chuckled. She held out her finger and flicked against Sha Danan's forehead, said, silly, I was just joking. Sha Danan blinked, and laughed. Vasp Kalo frowned, announced, good, the sortation has completed. In a moment, come see me and report what number you received. Later they will be posted on a list on a red board, so you can check who your opponent is. Now, Head Shishong has prepared a speech. The disciples immediately grew quiet. Master Doyal Shen left his seat and walked slowly to the front. His eyes swept across the disciples, then said, everyone, all of you are Jadon's hope for our next generation. Everyone here possess great potential. In the future, the position of master, elder, or even the head may be succeeded by one of you. Many Jadon disciples were excited. Master Doyal Shen showed a gentle smile. Of course, to get this far and attain the seat of elder and master, you all need to work hard. Everyone said at same time, yes. Master Doyal Shen held his long, then nodded. We Jadon clan, since Master Jadon to now have always been a well-known faction of good. Today, we are the leaders of the good cultivators in this world. The good rise up while the evil hid themselves. People live peacefully. The remaining evil, however, are treacherous and vicious. Their hearts never die. In the recent years, there are signs of evil preparing to rise up again. In the times like this, they need the good to get rid of them. So everyone must focus on cultivation, strengthen your mind. If we are strong, the evil can find no opening for them. All the disciples shouted, understand headmaster's teaching. Master Doyal Shen smiled. Good, good. Another thing I want to announce. To encourage Jadon disciples, I have discussed with masters and elders and it has been decided from now on, the winner of 7 Peaks tournament will receive a small prize. Ah, Master Doyal Shen looked at those young disciples, said, the reward for this session is, Union Mirror. What is that? Sha Danan had never heard of it before. He turned to Hidi and Amandla, but they were also confused. Other young disciples appeared to be lost, too. But, For the older disciples, such as Kevern, Xavion and Bako, their faces shone with the rare excitement and yearning. Hidi noticed Da Shishong knew something. She got closer and asked, Da Shishong, what is Union Mirror? Xavion whispered. Union Mirror was the esper of Master Wu Fangzi, the 10th headmaster of Jadon. I had never seen it before, only heard Master told me it is one of our faction's treasures. Extremely powerful. The one unique feature of it, if the spirit power of the caster is strong enough, Union Mirror can reflect all attacks. The caster will be undefeatable. Everyone's mouth opened wide. Amandla stammered said, that means invincible. Xavion shrugged. I am not sure how it looks exactly anyway. But Master shouldn't be wrong about it this time. He peeked at Master Doyal Shen, then whispered, it seems the masters had to pay a great price into holding this tournament. Everyone's faces were strange. Most people swallowed. With the treasure in front of them, even as cultivators, their stable minds were shaken. Master Doyal Shen stopped for a moment, smiled as he watched the disciples were discussing about the tournament. After a while he said, good, so basically that is it. All of you return and take a rest, for tomorrow morning the contest will begin. Together the Jadon disciples saluted, said, yes, headmaster. Master Doyal Shen nodded. Go. The disciples left the hall, leaving the elders and the heads remaining. Master Doyal Shen turned and smiled to the elders. Shishongs, you shall rest, too. Beginning from tomorrow, there will be many competitions that need all of you to take care of. Some elders had wrinkles all over their faces, while others appeared very young. They said nothing and left the hall. Finally, only the heads of the 7 houses were in Crystal Hall. Master Doyal Shen slowly took back his kind smile. His eyes swept through the 6 other people, said, okay, only 7 of us are here now. On the right, head of Sunrise Peak, Sheng Zhongliang frowned, asked, Head Shishong, what do you want to tell us? Master Doyal Shen nodded, slowly said, I checked Master Spirit. Everyone was shocked. After the incident at the stairs, the disciples were still frightened as they were passing the pond. This time Water Kirin was peacefully sleeping. Passing the rainbow bridge back to Cloud Seas Square, Bei said a few things to Sha Dan and then left with disciples from Dragon Head Peak. Sha Danan went back to Bamboo Peak's people, listened to Xavion talk about things that need to be regarded and about lodging. As Sha Danan was listening to him, he suddenly recalled, cried, damn. Everyone was surprised. Hidi asked, Xiao Fan, what it is? Sha Danan looked around, said urgently, I was talking to Bei and forgot about Ash. Now, I have no idea where he went. Everyone realized they hadn't seen the figure of the gray monkey. They immediately searched the square. The disciples from other houses were already gone, but there was no sign of Ash. Sha Danan was anxious. Since 2 years ago he brought Ash from the ancient valley, for 2 years, he and the monkey plus Big Yellow later on had lived together. Peak of Widows was inconceivably large. How could he ever be able to find him again if Ash went into the forest and looked for wild fruits? Sha Danan suddenly heard Hidi, huh. He turned and saw Hidi grinned and pointed, look. Everyone could not help but laugh. Ash was sitting on Big Yella's back. It screamed and waved at Sha Danan. Big Yella's jaw was closed tightly. Its mouth was holding a bone. Big Yella carried Ash and arrived in front of them. Ash jumped on Sha Danan's shoulder. Sha Danan patted its head and made a mad face. Where did you go? Ash wasn't scared. It grinned, pointed to Big Yella, then gestured with its hands. Sha Danan watched it for a moment, then suddenly asked, where did you find this bone? Ash gestured again and pointed to one end of the square. Sha Danan looked at Xavion. Xavion quickly looked around and saw no one nearby. He whispered, embarrassed, that place is Peak of Widows Dining Hall. Everyone was startled, laughed, then shook their heads. Xavion led them to one end of the square, said, we shall go to the dormitory now. Xiao Shamei, you are a girl, we have arranged for you to join the Bamboo Heights Shameis. No problem, right? Hidi shook her head, smiled, I wanted to talk more with Bako Shiji anyway. Plus, I can help Da Shishong to say some nice words to her. They laughed. Xavion blushed and pretended not to hear anything and walked away. Sha Danan glared at his monkey. Stupid monkey, next time if you go and be a thief, watch how I am going to punish you. Ash, creak creak, screamed and grinned. It was either that he didn't understand or didn't care about Sha Danan. Sha Danan scolded again. Then he turned back and shouted, hurry, you stupid dog, all you know how to do is eat. Big Yellow raised its eyes and saw everyone was walking far away. It stood and caught up with them lazily with the bone in its mouth. In Crystal Hall, the 7 houses' heads were there. All their attention was on Master Doyal Shen. Sunset Peaks, Headmaster Tian Yun was the first to get up, said, Head Shishong, did you find out what happened to Master Spirit? Master Doyal Shen sighed, slowly said, I had carefully checked. Master Spirit had nothing unusual. What? Every master was surprised. Master Doyal Shen looked at his Shishongdi, said, indeed. I had repeatedly checked many times. Everything was normal for Master Spirit. I really can't understand why it suddenly became so aggressive, then left so quickly. Tian Bolis pondered for a moment, said, I think the target of Master Spirit was the disciples. Can it be one of the disciples had provoked it? Head of Bamboo Height, Master Shui Yu said, impossible. If a disciple really made it mad, then why would Master Spirit give up after the first strike? The tone of Shui Yu's voice was extremely cold. The voice made people feel chilled. Tian Bolis stopped speaking. The oldest-looking Seng Shu Chong, the head of Peak of Wind, said, Head Shishong has a conclusion already. Master Doyal Shen sighed. Not to conceal it from you, I am also confused by it. Master Spirit is our mountain guardian. It cannot be underestimated. I wanted to use the secret, psychic art, to investigate, but then. Master Doyal Shen unexpectedly stopped. Tian Bolis asked, Head Shishong, what was it? Master Doyal Shen was embarrassed. Psychic art is a simple trick. It can help us to communicate with Master Spirit. But when I tried to use it, Master Spirit was sleeping already, I could not do anything about it. They were stunned. Master Doyal Shen coughed, said, no need to worry about it at the moment. We can plan later when Master Spirit wakes up. There is one more issue laying in front of us. I want to discuss with all of you. Seeing Master Doyal Shen's serious look, seemed it was not a minor issue, they removed their smile from their faces and sat silently. Master Doyal Shen also returned to his seat, pondered for a moment, then said, you know the Kongsang Mountain 3,000 miles east from here. They were startled. Master Vasp Kalo said, Head Shishong, are you referring to the Kongsang Mountain that contains Cave of Fangs? Master Doyal Shen nodded, exactly. Seng Shu Chong frowned. I heard, Cave of Fangs, is a natural cave, immeasurably deep. The climate there is ice cold and wet. Only countless numbers of bats live there. It is said to be home to more than millions of them inside the cave. This kind of barren place, why does Shishong mention it? Master Doyal Shen said slowly, all of you may not know, even though no life goes near that place now, 800 years ago it was a major hideout of the evil. The climate there is just right for the evil to practice their curses. Later, the Taoist from the side of good went there and wiped them out. The evil fled away and left this place deserted. Master Shui Yu spoke coldly. So, what are you trying to say, Head Shishong? The manner of Shui Yu was impolite to Doyal Shen. Everyone knew, however, Master Shui Yu always spoke like this. Master Doyal Shen also didn't care. He sighed and said, Shui Yu Shimei, I had received a letter from Incense Valley half a year ago. It said that near the Cave of Fangs, there is signs of evil remaining active. So, they want to ask my opinion. After some consideration, I sent my disciple Yi Kai to quickly investigate Kongsang Mountain. Sunrise Peak's Shang Zhongliang smiled, isn't that great? A new Shiji's potential and cultivation had earned him the champion position of last session's 7 Peaks tournament. With him there, what cannot be accomplished? Master Doyal Shen smiled back. Shang Shishong praised too highly of him. After Yi Kai had gone for a few months, he sent a letter back to me. The evil people truly had been active around Cave of Fangs. But their purpose, it is more surprising. Everyone was surprised. Seng Shu Chong asked, what is it? Master Doyal Shen was still remaining calm. He said, according to Yi Kai's letter, he had captured an evil follower. After interrogating him, Yi Kai found out Cave of Fangs was the headquarters of Blood Forger faction 800 years ago. During that time, Blood Forger was one of the 5 largest evil factions. After they were defeated by our good ancestors, they had fallen. The Cave of Fangs was also deserted. In recent years, Blood Forger has shown signs of rising. Although all important Blood Forgers were slain by the good in the Cave of Fangs battle, there was a secret cave that has not yet been found. There are many unique treasures and evil incantation scrolls that had not been discovered. Everyone understood. Master Kang Song laughed coldly. Evil-minded people, wishful thinking. Master Doyal Shen shook his head. No matter if this rumor is true or not, according to what I know, after the battle 800 years ago, the side of good didn't find any treasure storeroom located in Cave of Fangs. If there really is an undiscovered secret cave, I am afraid there will be an extremely evil object that we must be wary of. Master Tianyu asked. Shishong, what is the extremely evil object, is it really that important? Master Doyal Shen said quietly, Sinister Orb. Master Vasp Kalo was surprised, said, didn't that disappear along with Elder Blackheart's death, already? Master Doyal Shen shook his head. Though Elder Blackheart is dead, that doesn't mean Sinister Orb will have vanished from this world. The evil object like this cannot be controlled by normal people. The evil disciples may hide it since they can't use it. Elder Blackheart was from Blood Forger. Sinister Orb may very possibly be inside of the secret cave. They were silent for a while, then Master Shuiyu coldly asked, what is the will of head Shishong? Master Doyal Shen said, after I received Yi Kai's letter, I immediately informed Incense Valley and Skysong Temple. They replied and said they will send their best disciples to Kongsang Mountain to stop the evil followers. Tian Bolis frowned. Then you are saying? Master Doyal Shen smiled. This time is a rare chance for our disciples to earn some experience. There are many prodigies in Jadon, but most never go out there and practice. Also, these years the world is so peaceful, there have not been battles with the evil for a long time. From this chance in Seven Peaks tournament, I decide to send our top 4 disciples to Kongsang Mountain. It can stop the evil followers' plot and also allow our disciples to gain experience. And, he exchanged his smile for a solemn look, I heard both Skysong Temple and Incense Valley have some very talented disciples. If we do not do anything about it, we can't hold our position as leader of good any longer. Then, I will have no face to see my master and ancestors. They nodded. Master Vasp Kalo said, Head Shishong is very correct. Master Doyal Shen looked at the other masters, said, so, that means everyone is fine with it. They nodded. Master Doyal Shen said, good, then that is set. I had already prepared rooms for Shishongs in Crystal Hall. Please, you may all go rest now. Then he clapped his hands 3 times. Several children came in, lead the heads to their room. The children answered. The heads got up and saluted to Master Daol Shen, then left. Kongsang is named after the mulberry forest near the town. Kongsang town is the birthplace of Confucius.